Welcome to Legion of Myths Game Master Insight. Tonight, our panel of seasoned tabletop RPG veterans dives headfirst into personal stories, bold expectations, and powerful insights. Get ready to ignite your imagination and elevate your next gaming session. All right, welcome to Legion of Myths Game Master Insight. I am your host, John Maxley-Schlo, and I am truly grateful you are with us for tonight's discussion. Quick side note, if you're on Rumble right now, I'm not watching. Give me a minute. Let me get through this first. There we go. Game Master Insight is a forum where our panelists share experiences, ideas, and advice on tonight's topic of showcasing 3 distinct tabletop RPGs, highlighting their unique games and creativity, and I sincerely hope you enjoy this conversation. As always, a special shout out to our first-time viewers. I really hope you enjoy this video. Share it with your friends. Check our back catalog of videos. Some of them get a little weird if you go too far back. Don't go back too far. Come back again. Please consider supporting Legion of Myths through the links in the live stream's description. Rumble rants and super chats of less than $20 I'll read at the end of each segment. $20 or more, I will interrupt the segment to read your rant or chat as immediately as I can. I will let a guest finish his thought first, though. And $50 or more, I will take a drink in your name, and you can force the panel to answer any tabletop RPG-related question of your choice right then and there. Strangely, we've never actually had anybody ask a question with that. They just want to see me drink. I think you all are sadists. Just saying. If we reach $100 or more in Super Chats or Rumble Rants, it'll be a $75 we're just going to say giveaway. I haven't decided how I want to do it today, but there'll be a $75 giveaway during the rando portion of the show towards the end of the live stream. Legion with YouTube members, Rumble subscribers, as well as tonight's Super Chatters and Rumble Ranters have the opportunity to win, but you must be watching at the time of the giveaway to claim your victory. Else, it'll be $100 next week. Legion Myth moderators will time out or even ban people who attack any panelist or chatter. Attack the argument, not the person, and keep the various social media beefs off my show. This is going to be showcasing people's games. What the hell are you arguing about? People, please like this video. Subscribe to all the panelist channels. Well, it's not so much channels in the description today. Go buy their stuff. Just go buy it all. Don't even watch the show. Just go buy their stuff. That's just better for everybody, right? And thank you for your time and support. All right, with that out of the way, let us meet our panelists for tonight. We have 2 of the 3 here right now. I was given a warning that one of them will be a little late, and that's fine. That's what happens. Apparently, the doctor is more important than being on the live stream. Whatever. But let's meet our first guest. Back with us again is DM Blackwall. Please introduce yourself. Briefly tell us what products or media you create and your well, you don't have to. Who cares about your experience today? We're not talking gaming stuff. We're talking about your products. So just tell us about your products and who you are.
Sure. My name is Todd. I go by DM Blackwall online. I am one of the 2 authors of Horde Wars Basic and Horde Wars Advanced, which is a D12-based RPG designed to move quickly while maintaining tactical depth. You can find me on X. You can also DM_Blackwall. You can also find me at blackwallgames.com.
All right. And taking up the center square today, we have Dave Scott, Evil Genius. It's Evil Genius Games, right?
It is, yes.
I read your thing there, not what I have for notes. So Evil Genius Games. He is the evil genius behind Evil Genius Games. I saved myself right there with that one. Briefly tell us, or introduce yourself, and tell us what products or media you create.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dave Scott. I'm with Evil Genius Games, and we make the spiritual successor to D20 Modern. So if back in the day, the 2000s, used to play a game called D20 Modern by Hasbro, Wizards of the Coast, we make a 5th edition version of it, or at least a 5th edition inspired version of it called Everyday Heroes. And then in addition to that, we've expanded it. So we have 9 cinematic adventures, everything from Escape from New York to Highlander to Pacific Rim, and the newly announced Return of the Living Dead cinematic adventure, which I'm excited to talk to you guys about because I just read the manuscript for it. And so that is who we are.
All right. And when the basic expert gets here, he will be talking to most of the people in my community know the basic expert already anyway. So he will be here to talk about Atomic Punk 2240. All right, bear with me just 1 second. Sorry, some of the behind the scenes stuff just gets pain in the butt. And I just need to make sure that it's all up and ready to go. We're good on Twitter. We're good on Rumble. We are good on the YouTubes. come over here. All right. So the interesting thing about today, I kind of want to set this up for folks who are watching. The interesting thing about today's show is I actually set this up in a very particular format. Number one, there's no reason for any of these three to be competing with each other. Isn't that awesome? So I don't have to be like, why are you promoting this guy's game more than him? Doesn't matter at this point. We have a fantasy game. We have a D20 modern game. And when the basic expert gets here, we are going to have science fiction games. They're all using a completely different system. Somebody was thunking when he put this together. And honestly, the point is so you don't have to compare and contrast them together. You can listen to them and say, this is the game I want, or this isn't the game for me. And when we get into the questions here, we'll definitely figure that out. So let's start with DM Blackwell. For the folks out there, segment one is, so we got 4 segments, just like normal. We're doing this in the same format as a normal show. But segment one is going to be, they're just going to briefly give us, kind of, more an elevator pitch, but just kind of the quick rundown of the game. So, Dan Blackwell, what is the core concept behind your game, and what key elements do you believe make it stand out amongst other tabletop RPGs?
Oh, the core concept is actually like we were talking about earlier. Like the Rules Cyclopedia, to give you an entire game in one volume, a complete game that you don't need anything else to play. And that you could spend the next 20 years with your friends playing it and wouldn't have to buy another thing from us. We really miss companies doing that more regularly, and so Nate and I decided to write a game that would function that way. And if you like it, obviously you can buy subsequent games that we're working on. But yeah, that was the goal, and we also designed it to play very quickly, and we were able to, by using a D12, make for a game that plays a bit more exciting than something like Pathfinder or D&D in terms of like critical hits and that sort of stuff. And we also made a number of changes to how the system math works compared to one of those games to let things also move quicker, both because you're killing stuff quicker, they're killing you more quickly as well. It's a little more deadly, and also there are less steps for each thing. For example, Fireball is 2 steps less than you would need to do in D&D or Pathfinder.
All right. We're definitely going to talk about some of the mechanics a little bit, but I am interested. Can you quickly describe those steps to the folks?
Yeah. So Fireball in Pathfinder or D&D, your caster will typically expend a spell slot of some sort. Will roll some dice for how much damage it would do after naming the target area, and then the opponents are each going to roll saving throws. You're pretty much never going to fireball if there's one opponent, unless it's one really big opponent. It's an area effect. So there's going to be 2 or more saving throws, typically, with adding different numbers. In our game, it's an attack roll against everything in an area, compared against their defense numbers. And then you deal the damage. You do half on a miss, you do full damage on a hit. That's it. There's no saving throws. So you're skipping however many saving throws there would have been. 6 creatures, 15, whatever it might be. And that, we noticed, saves significant time at the game table because we actually play tested it with a D&D or Pathfinder style fireball, and then the reverse, and checked which one our playtesters liked. And they liked the quicker moving one that they could crit with.
Interesting. Okay. So this might be better for segment 3, but I'm going to ask it now in case I forget. Do you find faster play to be something that's important?
Not as much for me, but I do think it is very much the case for a lot of younger gamers.
Okay.
They're used to much quicker interactions online, on their phones, and in person. And so it definitely helps it appeal to a younger audience and keep them engaged. That's and it's not that it's not appealing to an older audience. We got guys in their 60s. We got one guy in his 80s who's playing. But keeping the game moving, keeping the characters engaged in the world and in the combat really helps. And we've done that with a number of mechanical things, but also just like a points of light game where if you leave town alone, you're almost certainly going to die. The town or the castle, those are relatively safe, other than from other people. But the wilderness, anything could happen. And so you need to work together. This encourages and explains merchant caravans and parties of people who may not even know each other very well banding together for survival, just to reach the next town.
Conceptually, I like that. For full disclosure here, sorry, Dave, but I have 2 of the 3 games on the panel. I have not read any of them, though. I recently just got the Horde Wars game, but I have not had a chance to read through it yet. It is what it is. I also have Atomic Punk, which I got months ago, which I still haven't read through either. I'm a bad person. I can't help it. Yeah, so this is still enlightening and new to me as well. But one of the things that does interest me about what he just said there is it's built into the world. There's a verisimilitude or an organic nature to the fact of, like, let's see, why do we need to have caravans with mercenaries and so forth? Well, because I have to throw dragons at you. No, I mean, you were already saying that, that teamwork builds. One of the reasons I love Forbidden Lands, by the way, because I love the fact that it forces teamwork. If you try to solo anything in that game, but I think that makes sense in a world filled with all types of crazy monsters and so forth. You shouldn't be trying to solo, because if they didn't have murderous claws, why would they be dangerous, right?
Exactly.
All right. Yeah, for shame. Shut up. For shame, you gaming with ADHD. All right, let's jump on over. I think this is going to be a little weird if I ask, but I'm going to do it just to make sure. Dave, do you have any questions, comments, concerns for Dan Blackwell? I know it's not really that kind of show where you guys are supposed to interact like some of the other ones, but at the same time, you don't have to feel compartmentalized here.
I think what he says sounds absolutely awesome. So obviously, longtime D&D player, longtime Pathfinder player, but I have an 8-year-old who's been carrying around the monster manual for the last month. And he's dying to play D&D, and I've been trying to figure out, how do I make D&D simpler so that he can get in and not have to do the 2-hour, let's create a character, let's do a bunch of math sort of thing. So
Yeah.
I love it.
No, this is definitely meant for adults, but I will play it with, like, my 6-year-old nephew, and he can do it. The main simplification is I just have him use our optional hard mode rules, weirdly, because it's simpler.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it's funny. I'm really good friends with Tim Beach. I don't know if you know him, but he made a really amazing, simple game called Start Here, which is you can create a character on one piece of paper, one card, and it's a really fun system. Very, very simplified. Not probably more simplified than yours, DM Blackwell, but like it's also a really fun one that I play with my son. So shout out to Tim if he's listening.
All right. Okay, so let's move on over and we'll talk to Dave Scott now. Now, this is Dave's first time on the show, so haze him properly, folks. It's the same question for you. What is the core concept behind your game, and what key elements do you believe make it stand out among other tabletop RPGs?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, like everyone else here, I think we all probably started playing Dungeons and Dragons at around the same time, 9 to 11 years. DM Blackwell, how old were you when you started playing D&D?
Me, high school. So I've been playing for about 25 years or so, maybe 30, somewhere in there.
All right. I started 6th grade and loved it, but like I also love modern. So like when Top Secret came out, I'm probably a little older than you, DM Blackwell. Max, I see you nodding. Boot Hill, Champions, and the Hero System, Mutants and Master, like those are my jams. Spycraft. I loved all those modern adaptations of D&D, and so I was totally hooked. And so when D20 Modern came out, it was a really amazing phenomenon because this was right when 3.5 came out, and Wizards of the Coast was like, I think we want to do more than just D&D with 3.5. So they opened up their license. We all know where that went, right? But what they also did is they actually got Bill Slavicsek and Jeff Grubb and Rich Redmond and others to actually create this game called D20 Modern. And yes, Spycraft is cool, Malky. D20 Modern was all about how do you take the 3.5 rules and make it modern. But what they did really, really well is they created an entire tool set. And then they created 11 supplements off of it. So there's like D20 Future, D20 Noir, D20 Superheroes, and all sorts of other really cool stuff like that. So it was really a building block for that. And then they shut it down in 2008. But despite that, people like me were still playing the game, right? So imagine a modern game that stopped that launched in 2001. And so like there weren't even cell phones in the game. You know what I mean? It was like, oh yeah, and you use your flip phone. So, when I ran into Jeff Grubb, which is one of the 4 designers of the original game, he was reminiscing on how much he loved creating the game and how he created this whole new genre of modern day role-playing game. And we just thought 5th edition was a great combination with it, and where we can update stuff, right? Like now we have Amazon Prime, which is a total game changer. Like, do you want a crowbar? Just order it. It'll be here the next day. You know what I mean? Like so the world is completely changed, right? The internet. So we put all that stuff together, and that's the origin of how we built our game, was based on that. And our vision is it's a toolbox. So what I love is how everyone's able to create their own version of a game on top of our toolbox. I was just in an actual play where we did Burn Notice season 3. Which is like super fun. Like someone was able to do that. Someone did a World WWF game off our system. Someone did a Transformers. I mean, so you can just do whatever you want with it. I just love hearing all these amazing stories.
It's funny. You played all the games that I didn't like.
Oh, come on!
No, when you mentioned that list of games, like yep, nope, yep, nope, yep, nope. Yeah. I shouldn't say didn't. No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't say didn't like it. I like Champions as far as a game goes and so forth. Just I don't have much interest. Even the game genre that you think that your game like fits me perfectly, because I used to run and play a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from Palladium.
Yeah,
I never actually. Well, not never. I moved transition from the modern day Ninja Turtle stuff to the After the Bomb setting instantly. I was always more interested in that. So I've always had much more of a fascination with fantasy and with sci-fi, post-apocalyptic, than I have modern world. But to bring this around, the one thing that I will say, this everybody here knows that I have nothing good to say about WotC. I'm going to say something good right now. Modern is the only implementation of the 3.x system that's any good.
Hey!
And I mean that. I'm not saying that because Dave's here. Most of you, if you've heard me talk about that, I've actually mentioned that before. I'm pretty sure I've said that to Victor when he was on. So if you're going to do something with the D20 system, modern is the way to go. And actually, the Lego concept of 3.x works perfectly for your modern game. He started mentioning that towards the end, all these different ways that you can put it together, Transformers, yada, yada. It fits that. So, this is why I'm not angry that he's on the show talking about WotC stuff. And I'm like, rah, rah, because he actually found the one good implementation of it. So
Max, here's what you'll love is like, everything we do is bordering on sci-fi. Mm-hmm. So yes, we've got games like Rambo, whatever, but we also have Pacific Rim, which is sort of giant robots. We actually have a Universal Soldier one, which is cyborgs. And then every single month on our website, we release brand new systems. And so one of the things we just released was a post-apocalyptic system. So that fits on top of Everyday Heroes, which has all the things that you would need to run a post-apocalyptic game.
I stopped listening when you said Rambo. I'm just like, Murdoch, I'm coming for you. Anyway, so I'm a child of the 80s. I can't help it. What do you want?
Yeah, me too.
So I have a question. I played D20 Modern when it came out. I enjoyed it. My question is, how did you handle money? That was
yes. That was like the one thing that Jeff said he regretted was the wealth system. So get this, Max, if you don't remember, if you wanted to buy something, you had to roll for it. So you're like, I want to buy a crowbar. Oh my God, I rolled a 1. I could not find a crowbar anywhere in the country. It was absolutely ridiculous. So we totally fixed that. We simplified it. So now, if it falls under your wealth level, you just go buy it. So to buy a crowbar, is
that similar to how Paranoia? Well, I guess Champions would too. With that.
God, it's been so long since I've done it. But we have something called a wealth system, and then we have something called a price level. So if a crowbar is a 1 and your wealth is a 3, then you just have a crowbar. And in fact, we've even gone so far, as you guys might appreciate this, is everyone has a car. Everyone has like an apartment or a home. And so we have something called car stuff and home stuff and pocket stuff. So if you're like, gee, do I have a screwdriver? Yeah, you got a screwdriver. It's probably in your house. It may even be in your car. And we don't even make you write it down. It's part of the stuff that you'd find normally in your places. And that simplifies the whole wealth system considerably.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That was the main thing I wondered as you were describing this. And then how do you implement classes, if at all? Because modern was fairly light, I would say, on the
super light on classes. Yeah. So the core rulebook actually has for those of you guys don't know, D20 Modern was structured on something called archetypes. So based on your primary attribute, strength, dex, constitution, yada yada yada, you picked an archetype, and then only after that you pick like a class. And so it was almost like a prestige class, if you remember back in the day. So we do it somewhat similar, which is you pick your archetype, which gives you a bunch of good stuff. And then after that, you pick your class. But we actually started with over 20 classes in our core rulebook. And then we released another 30. So there's 50 classes. Sorry to add complexity, but we love it. And then every month we release 2 or 3 more new classes. So like we just released for Everyday Apocalypse, we released a sort of a survivalist kind of character, who could like make batteries and stuff like that. So we try to sort of showcase how extensible our system is. So we're Pathfinder-esque when it comes to the quantity of classes that you can jump into.
Okay. That's probably better than just having like 4 or 5 or 6.
That is a lot better, but it's a lot of fun because you're like, oh wow, someone's playing a networker, and then like you're like, what is a networker? And like that's a new class that we came up with where you basically are a charisma type character. So we have all sorts of weird classes like that. We have a billionaire class, which is super fun. So as an action, they can actually call their bodyguard in to take a shot at the bad guy and then leave the scene. They also have the ability called bonuses for everyone. So if they're in the middle of a stressful encounter, they can just pay them off to go away rather than fight them.
Just throw money at the problem.
Just throw money at the problem.
I mean, isn't that the answer to everything?
So I'm in a zombie game and I play a research scientist. They have this special ability called I'm just a scientist. You know how in movies every once in a while, like no one shoots the scientist? Well, when that happens, it's almost like an invisibility spell. No one can target me. So I'm walking around in a combat doing all sorts of weird stuff, and they can't target me. And my GM gets so pissed.
By the way, for the folks in chat, you can find the link to each one of our guest games in the description. If you haven't already, please go check that out. Give them a purchase. Obviously, tell them thank you for being here as well.
By the way, Daryl is so right. It's like a fixer. So if you ever played Spycraft, you guys remember like the fixer there. So yeah, it's the networker's kind of like a fixer. They're a charming class that can get stuff done. They always know a guy, and that guy can go do stuff for them. So it's super fun. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, hey, it's your show. I'm just here to make sure that we talk about stuff. This may have been the question that you answered, but in case it's something else, how does the game scope? No, that's not yours. Sorry. Hey, look, I don't even know how to host a show anymore. There we go. Was there an interesting challenge? And the reason why I picked this follow-up question for you is because you are writing it for a system that many people already know. And a lot of people have used the OGL and so forth. So there's going to be something that sets your game apart or something that was more of an interesting challenge for you than you thought. So is there an interesting challenge you faced during development that significantly impacted the game's overall feel or gave it a feel that you specifically wanted?
Yeah, absolutely. We're all familiar with D&D, which has its own really well-balanced rules for melee combat. But really, the rules were sort of reasonably undeveloped for ranged combat. So now put in a shotgun, which one shot can just blow you away. And so we really struggled to create a balance around that. And particularly what we did is we ultimately changed the AC system. So instead of having AC, you've got defense. And the reason why he did that is because I watched all my favorite action films, of which my inspiration was Die Hard for this game. And Bruce Willis is always wearing a t-shirt and jeans. Yet he's incredibly hard to hit and incredibly hard to defeat. So we had to come up with a scenario where in order for you to become tough, you didn't necessarily need to wear chainmail. You know, you could just be tough by the fact that you're a modern day guy and you're tough. And so we actually built a defense system which sort of reflects that. And the whole theory behind it is that when you take hit points away, you're actually not just killing them, but you're also reducing their stamina and their ability to fight. And that's kind of how we justified it. Otherwise, it would not make sense that you could take 6 bullets to the chest and survive. So that was sort of one thing we had to change. And the other thing we had to change was what we came to the conclusion of is that intelligence-based heroes suck in D&D. Unless you're a wizard, they kind of suck. But in a tool-based society like modern, you're actually pretty good. You're actually, you're probably better than most, right? So we actually made the intelligence-based classes the smartest classes, the most powerful classes in the game. And we use that by being able to create something called a genius system. And so you almost get spell points as an intelligence-based person. And you could actually use these genius points to cast plans that, like blades in the dark, retroactively change the game. So the 3 of us could be in a jail cell, and we're locked in the jail cell over the weekend. And everyone's like, gosh, how are we going to get out? And the genius would be like, well, I've got the key, of course, because there was a 32.5% probability that we were going to get in here. So 3 weeks ago, I made a mold of it, and then they can get out, right? And so that's a lot of fun about being a smart hero in our game, is being able to retroactively change the game.
See, that seems like something that, for the people who like more narrative-driven games, that that can keep the game moving forward as well as you're playing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So for example, the hacker has something called emergency jetpack, which is really just a feather fall spell. But basically, if they fall off a cliff somewhere on their person, they've hidden the jetpack that glides them down to safety. So it's that kind of cool stuff that we built into that's super fun that we built into the game.
Neat.
Okay. All right. Well, perfect timing for the basic expert to pop in.
Sorry, I'm late. We scheduled this thing, and I'm a big dumb idiot. And my wife, we got a new doctor, so we had to do a doctor's appointment. So I was just like,
not a problem. Well, you know what? I delayed them well enough. No, I'm just kidding. No, actually, it was just coincidental. It was really good timing there. So real quickly before, just to be fair here, before you talk about Atomic Punk, just briefly tell us who you are, where they can find you on the internet. By the way, the description or the link to your game is in the description already.
Thank you. My name's John. I go by the Basic Expert online. I run a YouTube channel and I write games. I do art as well, art and illustration. And I like to talk about games, art, philosophy of gaming, review games, all that good stuff. And sometimes I can be a bit spicy, I guess, and make people mad, but
that's every gamer nerd ever, right?
Yeah, we're a contentious bunch, us nerds.
I would say, remember when I used to do that, but I still do that apparently. So. All right, well, let's just have you dive right in then with the first question. What is the core concept behind your game? Now, go ahead and you can talk about. Obviously, it's Atomic Punk, the 2240. I always forget the year now because I'm used to the old year. Atomic Punk 2240. What is the core concept behind your game, and what key elements do you believe make it stand out among other tabletop RPGs?
So it's a sort of I like Fallout, and so I was sort of like looking at the Modiphius 2D20 version or whatever, the Modiphius version, and I was like, I don't really like this. Not that it's like a bad game. I get that it's popular and people like it, but it wasn't like to my liking. And I've always been the kind of guy to make games that I want to play. And so the game originally started as like a BX clone, as most OSR things are. And then I realized, I really want to after the OGL thing, I was sort of like, I really want to make this my own thing and kind of make the game that I want to make. And so I switched it to be a 2D10. It still has a lot of BX isms to it, but it also draws a lot from Traveller, which is 2D6. And Traveller is one of my favorite games of all time. So the 2D10 spread, I think one thing that makes the game unique is I don't know why more people don't use 2D10, because the percentile spread, when you look at how it distributes when you roll, it's so perfect. It's like a percentage point, it's like this perfect pyramid of percentage points, and it's beautiful.
I can't count 2 dice.
Well, the game's simple. It's not that simple. It's 2d10. You're trying to get 11 or better. So like I was riffing off of Traveler, which is like 8 or better on 2d6. And so you're trying to get 11 or better. That's always what you're trying to do. But there's going to be different things that change the way your chances of hitting 11 or better. So I have a very particular and I guess you could say detailed and probably autistic weapons versus armor table that you have to reference. So like if you're shooting at someone and you have leather armor and you have like a pistol, you're going to have a different set of modifiers against that person than if you had let's say like a rifle or something like that. And so gear really matters if you're trying to succeed at what you're doing. And then obviously situations modifiers affect the situation as well, like cover and things like that. So I really tried to make it so that gear was very important, but it's also like hyper deadly. Like during play testing, it was funny. Like they go into one room and you like easily clear out these zombies in this, subterranean bunker area, and then you're like easily clear them out, and then the next room or a few rooms later, it's some other monster and it's like a total TPK. So that I was like, when that happened, I was like, this is perfect. So that's also what you would expect from a game from me, I think. But the style is definitely like I tried my best to kind of go for that retro, as the name implies, atomic punk feel as like a genre. And the book is entirely illustrated by me as well. So I'm a one-man show all the time. So it's entirely like a book done and illustrated by me. Designed, layout, illustration, everything.
Well, I haven't critiqued the writing or the layout yet. I've had your book out of all the books. I've had yours the longest. I still have not read it yet.
It's all good.
I'm busy, so. And I will tear up some editing.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not great. I'll always say that about my stuff. Like when you buy something from me, like I do the best I can, but like I'm a one-man show at the same time.
Right. No, that makes sense. So I have a question for you. And this one, so that I've been writing a game for about 7 years. It's actually turned into about 10 games, a little piece here, a little piece there. Well,
sure.
The one that I was writing, we'll say about a year ago, not even a year ago, I ran into that situation where I don't mind complexity in my games as long as it has a verisimilitude to it. And I was trying, I was looked at Alternity. I looked at old D&D weapon versus armor. I looked at what I wanted. In the end, I could not make that table that you were talking about happen the way I wanted to happen. Because you said exactly what I'm like, oh, yes. I wanted it to be deadly. I wanted, if a 50 cal hits you, if you're not at least an armored up Humvee, you're done. Things like that. Like again, mine was futuristic as well. But I couldn't make it work in a format that wasn't like calculus for people. How did you do? Well, I mean, maybe this would be more for segment 3 again, but in a quick sense, how'd you solve that problem?
So I grabbed, I don't know if they'll show up because of my green screen. Oh yeah, they're like invisible. Look at that. So I grabbed, these are like the D20s, but they're D10s. So I grabbed my my D10s and I looked at any dice. So first of all, I think if you're a designer, anydice.com is a great resource. So I looked at any dice. I looked at the spread of D10, 2D10. And then I sort of just rolled on my desk as I was like, I just sit here and I rolled 2d10 a bunch of times. I'm like, what does like +3 feel like with this weapon armor matchup? Because I sort of went with a gut feeling or like mathematically, like what I thought like each weapon versus armor would be good at. And then I rolled them and I'm like, ooh, like statistically, this one should be right, but like rolling it, like this is how I design a lot of my stuff too. Maybe this is bad or not good or good. I don't know.
More organic, less mathematical.
Yeah, it was sort of like, how does it feel? Like, because how is it going to feel at the table when you're rolling on this table and you're shooting a pistol versus leather armor? Like it should feel a certain way, not just like you can't. I didn't just trust the statistics to tell me that it was going to feel right. Like how did it feel rolling it? So I just rolled 2d10 a bunch of times, hundreds, thousands of times at my desk here as I was designing the game to see like how each weapon versus armor matchup would work. And sometimes I made modifications. Sometimes it was, I realized like statistically, like this this matchup seems like it should be right, but it doesn't feel right. So I need to bump it up by +1, or I need to reduce it by +1. And so it was a lot of just trial and error. How did it feel? Yeah, as Vic says, they're just vibes, man.
Yeah, he wants Dwarven Wizard, so I'm not talking to him.
I had a question, John. How do you handle radiation?
So there's like it's tied to your toughness score. And so you'd make like 2d10 saving throws against certain levels of dangerous levels of radiation. And if you start getting too many radiation points, you start to have like sickness effects and you'll eventually die. But kind of like the Fallout universe, if you take some medication, you can reduce the effects and get back down to health. I kept it pretty simple too.
And then
what's your currency?
Oh, you have to go with pop caps. You know?
What about loot? If loot's so important in the game, how do players require it? Like, do you have a system for that, or is it more like just buying it from random merchants wandering the wasteland?
So I have like treasure tables, and certain kind of foes and loot caches can be found throughout the wasteland. You know,
cool.
So you know, I have a treasure table that you can use to like see how many like. There's also scrap too. You can use scrap to like fix weapons, because like weapons can jam, weapons can break, armor can break, and you need like scrap to fix it. Caps and scrap to fix it. So there's like a treasure table towards the end of the book that gives you like the percentages of each kind of treasure type, kind of like D&D. I just pretty much I didn't steal the percentages, but I stole like the idea from D&D of like, this is a treasure type A, B, C, D, you know. And they have different percentages that way. So, and then sense. monsters and mutants and certain foes will have, if they carry treasure in a stronghold or a lair or something like that, they'll have a treasure type. So I just kept that as something familiar.
Cool.
Anything else? Otherwise, I have one more follow up here.
Yeah. Hey, nice to meet you, by the way.
Yeah.
I love the idea. You know, when we developed our Everyday Apocalypse, there were 3 things we cared about, which was like, 4 things. We have a random table about like, how did the apocalypse happen? And so you could roll down there and go nuclear blast or medical mishap, you know, whatever. Curious to know if you create any origins around how it happened at all, or is it always sort of a nuclear explosion?
It's a nuclear explosion. I think one of the fun things with it, because I was trying to keep the Fallout vibe, like one of the fun things though with the post-apocalyptic genre, and maybe you guys could attest to this too, is like taking your hometown where you live and playing a game in a destroyed version of where you live.
That's awesome.
So like the official setting that I have a little mini setting in the book, and I live in Idaho near Boise, in the Treasure Valley. So like it's just post-apocalyptic Boise. So yeah, it was just like I have it set where in the 90s, instead of the Berlin Wall falling, everyone just started throwing nukes at each other, and then that was so that's what happened. You know, they're like I'm gonna. The Soviets were kind of like our country's crumbling and we're gonna take everyone with us. Essentially, is kind of like what happened. So.
So just for the record, when I went to school in the early days of my schooling, I actually had to do the whole duck and cover underneath the desk. They still had that going on.
Yeah. In the case of a Fallout, this is what you do.
A bend over, kiss your butt goodbye. Right. So how does Atomic Punk 2240s game scope or scale compared to others in its category? You already mentioned like Fallout from Modifius, but there's also games like Mutant Year Zero, there's Mutant Crawl Classics, there are a bunch of others that we can compare. After the Bomb, one of my favorites, you know, that we can compare to. How does the game scope or scale compared to others in its category, and why did you choose that Fallout focus?
I just love the aesthetics of Fallout. Like ever since Fallout 1 and 2, like playing Fallout 1 and you get out of the vault and you almost die by the rats, you know, and you're like, what is this? Is terrible. And then you get out and there's like, you know, you get the one random encounter when you're right outside the vault. Sometimes like, oh, I'm fighting like rad scorpions now. This is awesome. I guess I'll just restart the character again. I've always kind of loved that. And so I guess the scope wise, like what I give you in this is, as a lot of you guys know, I'm a big fan of like good tables and low to zero prep. So I try to give you tables on like settlement generation, faction stuff. Like I even have like a mutant generator in there, where you can like roll on some tables to get, because it's a great way of like, if your players start to figure out what certain mutants are, or if they're, because I have a lot of monsters and mutants that are like from Fallout, but with the serial numbers filed off, so they're probably familiar with like, oh, I know what that is. But with the mutant generator, you kind of, you're sort of like, you kind of disperse that metagaming thing, because they kind of run across things. Like I was playing one when I ran a playtest with some in-person friends, and it was like they ran across some like gorillas that were like half spider and half fly, like mutated together, and they're like, I don't know what to do with that.
Don't get caught in its web, because it will eat itself.
So I try and give you a lot of tools that I would hopefully be like useful, and I think even maybe useful to those other games. Like maybe mechanically you'd have to convert some things, but just sort of give you like fodder for generating ideas on the fly at the table, because I've designed and run games myself for that sort of like giving players complete autonomy, and I want to give referees the tools to react to that kind of like player autonomy in their games. So also there's like vehicle combat, and like I have abstracted rules for like settlement combat. Like if you build your own settlement in your campaign, like what are the chances of it getting attacked, and can the people that you have there, I give you very basic and simple like calculations, so that in a roll or two you can figure out if your settlement got raided, or everyone got killed, or they fended off the raiders.
So my expectation of Atomic Punk 2360 is going to be McCrease level autistic tables and rules.
1,000 plus pages of simulationism. Yeah, I would love to do that, but I don't think I'm as smart as McCrease, so I don't think I could do that.
You know what I really liked about what he did, and I know we're not here talking about his game, but just as example, because I don't either. I honestly, most of that stuff is too in depth too autistic for my taste. But he did something that I wish a lot of game designers would do, and I see it in some regard. Give the simple version of it. If you want to do it quickly, and this is why you were mentioning tables. A lot of modern game designers, and I know at least one old game designer, they issue tables. They act like tables are verboten. You can't look at tables anymore. I'm the opposite. Now I might not be in the same low zero prep camp as you, but I get it. I still love tables. I love them as memory joggers. I love them as things. Yeah. Whoa, crap! This is one of those areas where I didn't. I actually don't prep a lot of things, but that I didn't prep for, or they went somewhere I completely was not prepared for. You get the idea that when you're stumped, literally no issues with going in there. Pop, hitting a table there. I think that's one of those things that a lot of modern designers, they keep telling people, just make it up on the fly. Man, I have played with some pretty dumb people that can't make stuff like that on the fly, or they're like, where if they just had a table, boom, moving on.
You don't even necessarily have to use exactly what's on the table, but like it can inspire you, like, oh, you run into some raiders, let's say, and you're like, what would be really cool is if these were raiders that the players had already met before. And so there's some history, and then you can start riffing on some stuff there, like stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm not quite. I would love to be as well versed in designing like a simulationist game as McCrease, but my game is definitely not as detailed as.
I don't know, man. I think there's a good balance between narrative design, and all three of you have kind of talked about that with your games. We're definitely going to dive into that as we go into especially segment 3. I keep mentioning that one. In terms of having a balance between enjoyable how do I want to say this? Well, we'll just say the narrative experience versus the gaming experience. I don't want a game that is a spreadsheet simulator. I can't stand that stuff. But I do love having the concepts that are there that make you think about those things, right? And I think that whether it's your tables or whether all three of you again have mentioned within your games where it kind of tries to balance that experience to some degree. DM Blackwell with the speeding up the gameplay, Dave Scott taking the third edition Dungeons and Dragons and making it much less boring. Like there's these aspects that you guys have done with these systems. I think it's better to have a balance than to go full story gaming or full spreadsheet gaming. That's just my take on that, though.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I feel the same way. And you could imagine when we built our game, how many different conversations we had about, do you track bullets? And you're like, oh, that's a lot of work, or how much of it is a table versus, letting them sort of role play through something. And we tried to create a really middle balance of it because we want people to have fun and we didn't want people to argue about whether or not the car could go 100 miles an hour or is it really 85 miles an hour.
Right. It's well, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say I was listening to John describe like interpreting tables, and one thing I think Victor Gorbachev there in chat, I think he was there for that playtest. I had players on their way to a Lich's Tower in a playtest where we were developing Horde Wars, and they rolled for a random encounter with a Lich. And I interpreted that as the Lich saw them coming and was ambushing them.
No, I wish more people would do things like that. Interpret what the table says. The table isn't the end all everything. Take that information. We've talked about it a lot of times here. Well, I rolled a dragon and they're only third level. There's so many things you can do with that aren't, what I call the Street Fighter mode. Round one, boy, and the theme music starts playing. There's so many interesting things you can do with that. That's an awesome way to do it. Like, oh, look at that. He knew you were coming. I think that's great. More people need to interpret the tables and make it fit their games organically.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's bounce into segment 2 here in just a moment. We finish up segment. Unless there's anything on the table you guys want to talk to each other about with regard to segment 1, we've got 3 more segments to go. There's going to be a lot of things that we're going to still knock out here.
Talking about ammo made me think of one thing with Atomic Punk 2 is I just had dice rolls at the end of combat to see if you expended magazines, just to keep it more cinematic.
Okay.
I have 1 minute combat rounds, and my assumption is that you're doing lots of covering fire, lots of things that are you're not narrating exactly, but I like that aspect of AD&D of 1 minute combat rounds, and a single attack roll doesn't necessarily represent a single attack. It represents are you going to hit anyone in that round of exchanging blows and cover fire, suppressive fire, things like that. So
that's very similar to the Free League system, where what has got food, water, arrows, and torches, and you don't have 6 torches. You have a D8 of torches, so to speak. If you roll a 1 or a 2, well, that drops down to a D6. And D6 is the lowest die you go for that. If you roll a 1 or a 2, so you basically have a 33% chance of being out. Of course, at a D12, it's kind of hard to lure because you got stockpiles of, in your case, ammo, right?
Yeah.
I personally, I like that abstract nature. I know there's some people out there like, no, I know how many bullets I fire. The average common person doesn't. Well, I'm not an average common person. I'm a trained soldier. I know plenty of trained soldiers who went through all of their magazines and went, uh-oh.
Yeah, the thing is too is I'm already asking play people a lot to use the weapon versus armor matrix in my game. So I was like, I can't make them count bullets too. That's
right.
I have to give them a break somewhere, So
cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, folks, in the next segment, we're going to have each one of them describe their setting, world, and lore. Now, some of that's come out already, but we'll probably dive into that just a little bit deeper. Some of it's self-explanatory. Fantasy, modern, Fallout, but we're going to dive into it a little bit deeper and find, maybe there's more hidden in that world. We'll talk about that in just a moment here. There were no super chats. There is one question I will ask that popped up if I can find it again. Oh, so this one was for the basic expert. Can characters gain mutations?
Yes, it's possible. If they don't, it's more likely they'll probably die from radiation. But if they don't, there's always a chance that you can get mutations because there's a mutant sort of background. There's regular human, there's mutant, and there's you can be a robot. You can be essentially like a ghoul. I call them revenants in the game. So you can sort of switch to becoming the mutant background from like human if you get irradiated too much.
A real D&D nerd would have called him a ghast. No, not ghast. No, but yeah, it's ghouls and ghast. Yeah.
Revenant seemed like more appropriate to visually like what, you know, they look like these undead things, but they're, you know,
and the word revenant is pretty intimidating. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
All right. Why can't I put that? There we go. All right, folks. Do you want to join? If you or someone you know has presence and charisma, the ability to educate and entertain, a solid AV setup free from noise, and a passion for discussing tabletop RPGs, join the Game Master Insight Discord. Link is in the description. We want to meet you, learn about your interests, and maybe bring you on the show to share your experiences.
One of us.
There you go. Yeah, right, there you go. If you enjoy this discussion, we now have him indoctrinated. He has the robe, the cloak, and the tattoo. If you enjoy this discussion, please like this video, subscribe to all the panelists' channels. Obviously, check out their games, which are in the description. Okay, well, we're moving on to segment 2, where we're going to describe the setting, world, and lore. We are going to start with Dave Scott on this one, the modern man. So what unique elements define the setting and lore of Everyday Heroes, and how do you think that environment shapes the overall experience for players who dive into it?
Yeah, you know, I mean, obviously ours is a modern day footing, and we sort of based modern day on anything from sort of like the turn of the century to sort of like Edge of Tomorrow, right? So Pirates of the Caribbean to Edge of Tomorrow. And ours is very much based on a movie theme or cinematic. So we try to have a lot of fun with stuff. One of the biggest innovations we did in our game was a chase mechanic, because I've hated every chase mechanic I've ever played in every single role. Played. So we're like, we got to get a good one. So I hired Goober, who's amazing at chase mechanics, and they put together an amazing chase mechanic, and it's fun. It's like, it's all based on complications. So it's like you're chasing a guy and he's carrying a bomb, and you're going through the streets of Mogadishu, right? And it's like complication 1, somebody's carrying a plain glass window across the street, you know, the kind of stuff you always see in movies, right? And so you have a lot of fun because it's all this classic stuff. You know, a fruit cart gets drawn in front of you, right? So we have a lot of fun like that in the game. But, you know, ultimately it's extensible. So as I mentioned to you, we just did a post-apocalyptic thing. Sorry. This month, we're actually releasing Everyday 20s, which is basically a setting in the Roaring 20s. So you get to play a bootlegger if you wanted to, or what have you. And then after that, we're doing a sci-fi sort of sci-fi setting, and then we're going back to cowboys and the Old West. So we try to be building blocks for anything that's sort of what we call modern, which is everything between Pirates of the Caribbean to Edge of Tomorrow.
Interesting. So specifically talk about Everyday Heroes. Have you woven any like hidden details or Easter eggs into the lore for either longtime players of maybe Dungeons and Dragons or people who just gamer nerds in general might find and discover?
Oh man. Yeah, it's so funny. And by the way, someone wants Big Trouble in Little China. Yes, it's something I want to do. Big Trouble in Little China would be a great cinematic adventure for us indeed. Yeah, you know what's funny is, okay, all right, who's gaming with ADHD? He's Let me tell you why he's razzing me real quick. So do you remember how we talked about the bullets thing and how no one wants to no one wants to count bullets? Well, my perspective is that there's some part of the community that does.
That is true.
That likes the hardcore grittiness of like a military style situation. Games that we were going to do was going to be a Block Hawk Down game, which was going to be legitimate to that particular situation where you had to worry about your food, your rations, your bullets, and you also had to worry about your sanity. And I love that concept. So we launched this concept of military heroes, and we started building the game, and then we stopped it. So it's on the back burner right now. Sorry, gaming with ADHD, but we'll probably get to it in 2026.
Well, there you go. You know what? Gaming with ADHD was going to try to get you on a show, but now he's like, screw it. I'm not going to.
Right, exactly.
By the way, just for folks, that is a totally fabricated, made up story there. I don't want to get anybody in trouble.
So what we decided to do instead of military heroes was a sci-fi system. Because we thought that there wasn't a really great sci-fi system that wasn't necessarily tied to an IP. Like, we all love Star Trek Adventures, we all love Dune, and we all love aliens, but there wasn't anything that was really sort of like a sandboxy. So that's what we decided to do. Other than that, all right. What was the question? I totally got sidetracked.
So have
Oh,
you woven?
Easter
Have you
eggs.
woven? I cannot talk. Have you woven any hidden details or Easter eggs into the lore for longtime players to discover, or the lore, the setting, whatever? And this is usually little gamer nerd stuff that people like to throw in their games.
Yeah, it's so funny. We had a bunch of cool Easter eggs from D20 Modern, and then WotC's legal team told us to take them all out.
Oh wow!
So, for example, there's this really cool sort of dragon hunting society that we were going to wig in there, and they said no thanks. So, unfortunately, we couldn't do any of that fun stuff. But what I will tell you is, for Intergalactic Heroes, I was able to convince our designer, Brian C.P. Steele, who is the same Brian C.P. Steele from Transformers and G.I. Joe and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, to include an alien race that is not too similar than a Dralocyte. So for you Star Frontier nerds out there, that is an Easter egg. Yes, the Dralocyte is coming back. So super excited about that.
Awesome. Unfortunately, Star Frontiers is one of those games I did not get a chance to play. I do have. I know. I have Frontier Space. It's just like the modern whatever homage to it, but I never got Star Frontiers or what was the D&D version? Not GURPS. Starts the Gamma World. Never got that either. But
Frontiers is hands down my favorite science fiction game.
Nice. Yeah, I wish there's somebody on my Discord who keeps posting his Star Frontiers games. So I'm a little jealous. But anyway, do you guys have any questions, comments, concerns for Dave with regard to his setting, world, and lore?
So you said you're working on a space one.
Yeah.
I love Classic Traveler. I'm actually running a Classic Traveler game for my in-person buddies right now. Do you have like similar tools like that in it? Like, is it sort of neutral in the way like 1977 Traveler is? One thing I love is like the subsector generation in Classic Traveler. Do you have something similar like that, or anything like that?
Yeah, so we focused on cinematic stuff, and so we try to avoid the crunchiness of it. So there's a lot of hand wavy, actiony stuff that's in there. So we did avoid a little like character creation is the best character creation experience ever I had was with Traveler, right? Like we did not choose to recreate that process.
You don't want to die in character creation?
I do not want to die in character. But so it's a lot of fun. So we actually have we have the tool set to be able to do everything from Star Wars, for example, the Force. We've got something called the Tide, which affects the gameplay. And all the way down to something that could be more science-oriented, like Star Trek or the Orville. But then we also created our own world called Throne World, which is our own sort of high fantasy, high sci-fi a setting that if you want a setting, you could dip into that setting. So I'll send you a copy. I'm pretty curious to get you think about it as a longtime Traveler fan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a super. I mean, Traveler's older than I am, but
Yes,
but I love it. I don't know. Once I discovered Traveler, I loved it. So anytime I hear people are making a space game, I'm like, oh, is it like Traveler?
Yeah. And for those of you guys who want to actually play our Intergalactic Heroes game, there's a free copy of it available on our website on Sidekick. You can play a beta version and tell us what you think and tell us if you like it or hate it.
Dave, do you have any exploration mechanics for that?
Oh man, that's a great question. If not, it's going to be added because that's a great idea. So what we decided to do, which is very unusual now, is we actually created a player's handbook and a game master guide. And so the player's handbook is what we've completed so far, and it's really around character creation and alien races, what have you. The game master guide is where I think you'd have some really interesting exploration mechanics built in, and I'm just going to have to steal that idea and probably make sure that we include it in there because that would be rad.
Cool.
Yeah. We have stuff like ship construction, ship combat. We have a huge bestiary in there. And then we have a lot of adventure hooks. So trying to give people ideas on how to build adventure hooks in this world. But that is something that space exploration is something that I'm writing down. Thank you.
You bet.
So for somebody like me, I'm not a huge fan of the pure, oh my God, who knows what's in this next hex crawl. I like a world that is at least somewhat I wouldn't say known, understood. At least those ancient maps might have, tell you what used to be there. So again, Forbidden Lands is a great example because you can. I don't know if any of you guys have done Forbidden Lands, but if you play it as a campaign, all four of us could play a campaign or run a campaign of it. And while the base map looks the same, where adventure sites are, where things happen, so on and so forth, they're all going to be in different locations. So we actually kind of have a different world. You explore it a little differently, but the mountains don't move, if you know what I'm saying. I like something like that where I can provide them a map, or they can say, "Hey, there's something." Using science fiction as an example, we know that there should be planet X floating, a rogue planet flying through this area over here. Let's go see if we can find it. And it may or may not be there. Maybe it's moved on. They didn't get their math right, so it's actually in a little bit different area. But the point being is that it's not like, oh my God, what's under the next rock? I always found that to be a little bit silly, for my taste. So how would you balance exploration like that? Kind of having an idea what should be there, what could be there, versus, you roll the dice, you take the chances.
Yeah, I mean, in our setting, it's a fully developed world, so the universe is pretty set. But given that we're we're trying to create a toolkit for everyone, I think that that's a really good table to build for exploration, right? And maybe there's a high threat, low threat, medium threat concept there where you could sort of spur some of those ideas for space exploration. One of the fun things that we had to do for each to build out this is to create entire planetary ecosystems and governments for every single alien race. And so not every alien race evolved the same way. Some of them are barbaric, some of them are very theocratic, some of them are very science oriented. And so like the mixing and matching of that was super fun to be like, these guys come from a really harsh terrain with a really harsh sun, and that's caused them to evolve this way. So I think a fun exploration thing is being able to create alien races on the fly using a model where you can mix and match, terrain, environments, political systems, and all other sorts of elements to be able to create your own unique alien system.
Let's bring this back into the modern setting. Yes. Just for the purposes of, because I mean, to be fair, that's what we're specifically talking about with regard to your game today. What I do like that people are finding out though is how modular the game is, and how again, Big Trouble in Little China might be coming down. We got Rambo, we got all these different ways of playing it that something is going to interest somebody out there. But in the more modern sense, in terms of the lore, is this like modern day America or Earth, or is that the intent of it, or is it meant to be something a little more personalized to whatever the player wants in terms of when they just pick up the book?
Yeah, so we can sort of do it all. So the base system is all focused primarily on this is Earth, this is an action movie. So it could be as realistic it could be as realistic as Fast and Furious, or as absurd as Fast and Furious 5. And it all lives sort of in the same universe, right? But you notice that we started creating these cinematic adventures. So for example, we have Universal Soldier, where basically we've introduced cyborg rules. We actually have a game based on Total Recall, where we introduced mutant mutations. So we have Pacific Rim, where you can pilot giant robots. All those things are interoperable. So you could actually sort of be like, oh, it's a normal day. You're just a fireman and you become a hero. And, oh, gee, you got your arm chopped off. And there's this Dr. Megala who just puts on a cybernetic arm, and you can actually add some of those fantastical elements to it because everything that we do works together in harmony.
Nice.
Banzai. Yes. That's on the
See, you're gonna leave here today, and you're gonna be writing too much now. We're gonna treat you like Kevin Simbiti. You're just gonna be locked in a basement somewhere, and all you're gonna be allowed to do is write, because every story that's ever been told, they now want as your game.
It all fits in the genre. But if I had a nickel for every time someone asked for Big Trouble in Little China, I'd be rich now. So but that's a popular one, that for sure. Ghostbusters is another one they request a lot.
Big Trouble in Little China might be a little difficult to pull off, specifically with the things that people really like about it, without maybe a little IP infringement.
Yeah, well, one of the most popular supplement for D20 Modern, which our game was based on, was something called Urban Arcana, which was Magic in modern day. That's really what everyone's looking for. So there's
Sure.
Bright. Yeah, someone just mentioned Bright. There's a long story around Bright. So one of the things that we postponed is releasing something called Everyday Arcana, which is basically our magic system for the modern world. Once we get that in, Big Trouble in Little China will be easier to do.
Okay.
But Jack Burton, so there's been fans who've actually built Jack Burton today with our existing character classes, because high reflex, fast talker. So it's all in reflexes.
And do you guys have anything else for Dave? Otherwise, I'm going to bounce on over to TBE. But I want to make sure. All right. So now moving over to the Fallout version. I won't call it sci-fi. I think we talked too much sci-fi with Dave. I can't call this sci-fi anymore. We now have to call this the Fallout post-apocalyptic section. So, basic expert, what unique elements define the setting and lore of your game? Obviously, we can say Fallout, but if you want to dive a little bit more into, the themes and feel of it, and how do you think that environment shapes the overall experience for players who dive into it?
So yeah, I've never shied away from the fact that I'm just taking Fallout and filing the serial numbers off. But I do add some little things. Like I said, the setting that I give, and I encourage other people to do the same. I was talking to someone who's like in the Phoenix area, and they're like, I'm going to do my own hometown too, because I did my hometown in the book. Like I want to make my own hometown, and I think they're in Phoenix, like the post-apocalyptic Phoenix. And so it has a lot of that stuff in it, but I've also over time like added some extra things that I think are a little maybe outside the realm of what you'd expect like in a normal Fallout game. So like in one of my zines not recently, it was like a couple zine issues ago, I did like a psyker class. So it's like psionics, because someone asked me, one of my people that bought the book was like, hey, I really love it, but it'd be cool if you have like a psionic class. And I was like, that's a good idea. I mean, it's not in the, but like, why not? Why couldn't there be like a full on, like someone with telepathic psionic powers in this world? So I made like a psionic class called the Psyker. One thing that's different from, because I'm riffing off of maybe a bit of Mad Max here, is I do have vehicles in the game. And because I like war games a bit, my idea for it was I wanted to make like a Cars sort of combat subsystem that uses the same 2d10 rules and uses the same sort of like armor tables even, but you could like just go to Target and spend a few dollars on some Hot Wheels, and you could use Hot Wheels and a protractor to sort of just sort of just have your car battles on the table, because I think that's fun, and I don't think you should have to spend like tons of money. Like you've talked, Max, about how you guys just play BattleTech, and you guys are like, this M&M is this mech here,
Yeah, a penny with an arrow pointing the forward facing. Yeah. Unfortunately, gaming with ADHD upped my mech count by 50% by giving me 4 more, but I had the same 8 mechs since like the late 80s, early 90s. To be fair, I have the cardboard foldouts. I've always had those, but and yeah, we just proxy them. This Battle Master today is a locust, so it doesn't make sense. Deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm a believer that like you should be able to just go to Target or Walmart or whatever and spend like a few bucks and be able to have like car on car combat at your table. So cars and vehicles are something that a lot of like the Fallout universe doesn't have that, which always is weird to me. It's like you have all this other extra tech, but like you can't use cars. And they have airships in the new games now, like they have like these hovering airships, and it's like, but no one drives wheeled like ground vehicles anymore. Those are just gone.
I could be wrong. I might be completely mistaken on this one. It's been so many years, but didn't the original Car Wars use a 2d10 system?
I tried not to look at Car Wars, so I don't know, because I didn't.
Fair enough.
I didn't want to be influenced by it, but it maybe it did. I'm not sure.
I haven't played since like 1990, so I don't remember. But I don't know why. But for some reason, I think it did. But if it didn't, well, oh well.
I was kind of inspired by that though. With like Gas Wars is another game that I think it's a little more modern, where you can use like Hot Wheels as your miniatures, essentially.
Roadhogs. So how do you balance? I mean, you've kind of talked about this a little bit in some regard, but how do you balance the realism versus more fantastical elements in the lore? And has that balance changed over time?
I really like the idea because I feel like D&D can be kind of be like this, at least old school D&D, and I'm obviously very influenced by that. But like you're very like an underpowered normal person in a very like overpowered and crazy world. And I think that that's a lot of fun, like trying to figure out how to like outsmart your enemies and whatnot. Even if you're against something ridiculous, like in D&D, you might have this idea of like, let's just collapse the roof in on the dragon, like screw it, like in the cave, let's take out the pillars and have the whole roof come down and kill the dragon in its lair. It's a perfectly feasible strategy, and so I really wanted to foster that kind of play in my own game. So you're very like, you're not always guaranteed like a full hit die worth of hit points at every level up because you roll on random tables, kind of like Shadow Dark or anything like that, to increase like attack rolls and things like that. So I kind of just lean into it. Like you're just like get better gear. It forces you to want to go and explore, trade, do all those things in the game world. And I think a fair GM should try and like foster that as well. Like, hey, they're the guild or the syndicate over here. Those are some factions that I've given the game. They have their own little outpost over here, and maybe if you do some jobs for them, or maybe they have a way you can barter or trade over there to get some better stuff. Like I want to sort of foster that to where you start getting better gear, you start getting better equipment, and you become more survivable in the wasteland.
It's weird. Every now and again you say something, and I'm like, that's exactly what I was going for in the sci-fi game that I was.
I mean, I don't know if you'll find that I did it successfully, but that was what I was trying to do, and I just did it, to the best.
No, I get. Well, I mean, you're making me definitely want to try it out more. I just don't know when that's ever going to be. But because like the idea that, I don't want somebody to be able to take a shotgun. Okay, like I want you to be a fleshy mass of pretty much everything can kill you, because I like that realism. But you also want to be heroic, right? You also want to be able to play the game. So how do you do that? You have the gear. And I was really looking for a system that, okay, I want you to have a 9mm. And by the way, I'm not asking you to design my game for me. I'm saying this out loud here so that you can tell me how your game works with regard to this. You have that 9mm. Well, we'll just call it its equivalent armor. It's basically a 50-50 crapshoot. Armor that's better, chances are at best you're going to knock them down. And after like 2 steps higher, you're just bouncing off them. But I still want there to, but then lower doesn't mean instant death, but it means, good luck, a leather jacket versus a 9mm, barring like the brightest ray of sunshine coming out of your butthole. That's just not going to, it's not going to help you out.
Yeah, if you look on my weapon versus armor tables, I have no in some spots. There's no modifier, it just says no, and it says you can't hurt someone. Like if they're in like the full on like power armor style, like atomic armor, I call it in the game, and you have your 9mm handgun, like it's just plink, 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 like you're not gonna hurt them. Maybe there's certain abilities, or maybe the referee homebrew something that can make it happen. You get lucky, shoot him in the eye or something like that. But generally speaking, like it's just plink, plink, plink. Like that's not. You need something better.
My game had it set up where a critical hit would hurt 1 level higher armor. So you could get, but you had to get that critical hit. Then the other balance issue that I had was I want the armor to degrade. Basically, I was trying to recreate Battlelords of the 23rd century and not include calculus, and I created more calculus, so it didn't work out. Anyway, let's just stop talking about my game. Just curious how you did it in yours. I might take a look at that. Do you guys have, in terms of inspiration, do you guys have any questions, comments, concerns for John?
Do you have any unique factions? I assume you've got some analogous to Fallout, but do you introduce any unique factions that you thought of into this kind of setting?
You just asked him the question I'm going to ask you. That's hilarious. I'll find a new one.
Yeah, so there's like the Guild, which is sort of like the remnant of the U.S. government, and they had a splintering off in the past with the Syndicate, who are sort of like the more brainy nerds that just had no morals, and like morals just get in the way of our science, you know? And so there's those two main factions. They kind of hate each other now because they're both like, we're the legit government, and because they both come from it, but they obviously have a difference of like, we need a technocratic society to sort of not have these problems, and then the guild is sort of like, we need to bring back some of these American virtues in a sort of propagandistic way. There's also like the Idaho Rangers, because I set the setting in here in the Treasure Valley. So they're like a group of unified sort of confederacy of settlements that are in the Treasure Valley, and they hate both factions. So you can kind of work for either one. And then there's sort of like free factions as well, and just like settlements. In one of my zines that are like additional to the game, I added the ability to like generate your own sort of raider gang. So like they would generate their raider gang, like what their goals are, like what their like what their motivations are, and so I try and give you that as well, because again, I'm not trying to tell you this is what your world should necessarily be, but I'll give you the tools to sort of make that world happen, hopefully. So
Yeah.
Max, you have a question. A $10
yeah, no, I'll do that at the end of the segment. They know $20 gets read right away. $10 waits to the end. So Blackwall gets to go first. We'll definitely get to them though. So yeah, today's been kind of light on the super chat, so that sometimes happens. So it's okay. Just remember, folks, though, we won't have a giveaway if we don't make $100. All right. So anything else for Basic Expert, or otherwise I'm going to move on over to DM Blackwall. And I had to pick a new follow-up question for him.
Just one quick question. I think the guild is really rad. Like that, those whole concepts. When you join those factions, do you get any benefits? Like you with Fallout, obviously there's armor that's associated with one faction. That's really cool.
Sure, yeah. So like atomic armor, which is like the power armor in Fallout, that's generally going to be used by the guild. Like that's really one of the only places you can really get it. And I also have like a reputation system, because I felt like in the sort of the more modern Fallout games, that's a big deal, is having a reputation. So like, obviously, if you join the guild, like automatically the Syndicate hates you. If you join any of those, obviously the Idaho Rangers are going to hate you, because it's like, well, you just want to take over all our settlements, so screw you. So yeah, I do try and do that. Like with the reputation system, you get like discounts when you buy from certain faction merchants and stuff like that. So if you become really well liked, they're more likely to sell you things at a discount, which again, gear is important in the game. So, you want to get more magazines or better, you want to get maybe you work for the Syndicate, they're really advanced, and you're like, they have plasma weapons. So like you get in good with them, and you get an easier way of getting plasma weapons and just start burning through armor and stuff like that. So I tried to set that kind of stuff up.
Cool.
Yeah, I like it when joining a faction, they're neither good nor evil. They're all a little gray, especially in a post-apocalyptic world. They're all kind of dicks in one way or the other. But if you join this one, you have, let's just say, more food and water. You join this one, you have more guns and ammo, so to speak. So it's like, okay, do we want this? Do we want that one? Either way, you're going to be struggling, but which way do you struggle? Or if they're like 6 factions, there's always some sort of benefit for it, but then there's a drawback for it. Like, oh, you're in the most powerful faction, but all the other factions are gunning for you now. They want to make a name, things like that. I love that.
And there's an expectation now, like you got to have loyalty, and you're going to want, you might have some order. Like you're working for this faction now, so they're going to send you, and maybe you have to maybe as a Syndicate person, they're like, as the referee might decide, you got to go poison the water supply of the local settlement here because we need to make them weak so that they're more willing to join us, so they're very manipulative in that sort of way. They like to do that kind of stuff. So you got the plasma gun because you joined the Syndicate, but now you got to go poison the water hole for all those poor settlers out there on the wasteland who already have it rough. You got to make that decision. So
cool.
All right, well, let's finish up this segment with DM Blackwall. Remember, we're talking about the setting, world, and lore here, folks. So what unique elements define the setting and lore of your game, and how do you think that the environment shapes the overall experience for the players who dive into it?
Well, I think the environment is vital, right? Because it's the kind of game you're playing. This is both for setting, but also genre and feel. So Horde Wars Advanced is a medieval setting, kind of points of light. So the tech is late medieval, but the setting is early medieval or Dark Ages, where there isn't where travel is quite dangerous, and there are essentially abandoned areas to explore. Now, of course, it is fantasy as well. So you've got dragons out there. You've got goblins. Orcs are a playable species in our game and are heavily analogous to Vikings on purpose. They are raiding up and down the coast looking for slaves and silver. We also have we've tried to make monsters genuinely evil, make them existential threats, whether it's zombies just wanting to kill people and spread their plague, or whether it's goblins' desire to eat people, or the Dracarans' desire to enslave others. You should defeat them. It is morally right to destroy these kinds of creatures, and we try to make that pretty obvious.
So zombies aren't people too?
No. Humans, of course, can be more gray, may have their own motives. We have a lot of tables to help you generate some information for random encounters, for personalities, for NPCs, and this kind of thing. But we also give you a full setting chapter and a full starting area chapter, and in the setting chapter, each nation is a 2-page spread, giving you 3 adventure locations, usually a half dozen NPCs, an explanation of the nation and its various laws, government structure, this kind of thing. And I think that really helps for reference, so that you can go, okay, this 2-page spread, I'm going to open the book. What is this country like? You don't have to skip around. And that was pretty deliberate. But as a result, we were able to get 8 major nations that are analogous in different ways to some European nations. Obviously, none are exactly the same, as this is a fantasy, but you can definitely tell where we were drawing our inspiration from.
It's funny you said that. I am meeting more and more people, both on the high-end professional side and indie creators, that are picking up that tenet of, I want everything about this subject either on a page or on, like you said, you start here, you end there. There's no page turning. It's like there's no page turn. There's a term for it, and I forget what it is off the top of my head. And I find that interesting more and more, that's becoming a design technique that a lot of more people are trying to do. I'm not doing it because there's no chance in hell that'll work. But in terms of that design, you showed a success story with it. Has that caused any issues, though? Like trying to fit it like that?
Yeah, I mean, that made it so that the setting chapter took the longest for me to write of anything.
Okay.
Because I had to be so careful and precise with language to convey all the relevant information in the right amount of space, and still leave room for a piece of artwork on each of those pages as well, where you're getting like a piece of heraldry from the nation or that kind of thing. The other thing I would say about the setting is that, just like in real life, we do have a powerful central church of a monotheistic faith that is dominant in 5 of the 8 major nations that you start with in the setting. And this, you kind of need that for medieval Europe. The Catholic Church was actually quite a big deal, both in terms of just normal daily life, weekly or more often religious observances, but also they just straight up started wars or finished them. And that element, I think, is actually really important if you want to be in something like medieval Europe, if you want to play in that kind of setting. Rather like the fallen remnants of the government are, I think, important in a post-apocalyptic setting.
I swear that Blackwall must have stole my notes from me. Just answered another one of my follow-up.
Well, you should stop sharing them with me. I mean, that would
I know,
that would
right?
solve the-
Wait, were you guys on the same Signal group? Is that
Right? We were in the same press briefing.
Well, I got a question. So,
Please.
so yours is medieval, no fantasy, or no magic, like historical background. Then,
What was
or
your?
is it
I couldn't hear you.
is your world completely historical? So no magic, no fan.
No.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
no. Very much inspired by history.
'Cause you have
Like I took the
Vikings, for
time to read a
example.
firsthand account of a crusade by someone who was there and learned about that and incorporated a lot of that information into our game. But that being said, no, it's definitely medieval fantasy, but we want it to also feel real, so that there's
Okay.
yeah. There are wizards, there are dragons, there are cultists here and there. And there are religions of varying degree of accuracy or power. Like we have the Easterns basically worship a whole pantheon of gods, but it's fairly obvious that they're being deceived, because if you ever go to one of their temples, we have 2 of them in the book, they're just straight up talking with fiends or demons. That's who's leading their religion actually. That's
pretty
not what they think, but that is what's happening.
I think there's a country like that in Pathfinder.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Great plagiarizer. Is there weird science in Horde Wars?
What do you mean?
Kind of like the tech meets magic.
Probably the closest thing to that is a character ability they can pick up, and other NPCs could pick it up as well, called Elemental Blade, that allows them to basically channel a type of elemental damage through their weapons. That's probably the closest to that sort of thing. It's not terribly high tech. There's no guns or a clock you could carry or anything like that. Now we are working on a sci-fi game that we should have out next year, and that obviously has a bunch of technology in it. But this is the high end of technology, is like having spring steel.
So what has been the most rewarding part? Because, fantasy, especially since you're going with a historical bent to it, fantasy can sometimes be blasé, even if somebody thinks, how do I say this? How do I say this without going into a diatribe? Making something that's just against type is the most boring way of trying to be interesting in any role-playing game ever. But just copying something, you'll get I remember when that was called Dungeons and Dragons. You know how people are, right? So what has been the most rewarding part of sharing or creating and sharing lore with the players that are out there, especially those who are brand new to either the genre or the style?
I would say the excitement we're getting from new and old players alike. But we're getting people who have never played RPGs coming to try our game, which is great. It's really cool also to see people who are more used to RPGs getting excited about history, because as soon as they kind of catch what we're referencing, a certain chunk of our customers will go look it up. Like they'll latch onto that.
Didn't actually happen.
they'll latch onto that and introduce concepts and ideas that they picked up just from their own like research or enjoyment. And I think that's really cool. That's really fun to see when we have a player who has taken the time, that they're that invested in the lore and in the setting, that they're like, this seems like this other thing that I've looked at. Like, for example, we had a player who wanted to have a female crusader. That happened. It did not end well for her, by the way, the most famous and important one. Best case scenario, she got cut down in combat. We can hope that's what happened. But she and the troops she was with were wiped out and never seen again anyway. But it did happen. There were at least 3 or 4, one of whom was an active combatant. So we were like, and so this player was like, this is the thing this player suddenly cared about. This one particular woman from history, or this trio of women from history, and that was pretty cool. And so the initial reaction of the other players in this game was like, no, that wasn't a thing. And then And then we checked, and we're like, no, that did happen. It's just extremely rare.
With less than desirable outcomes.
Yes.
All right. Do you guys have any questions, comments, concerns for Dan Blackwell about his Horde War setting?
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Then I will we'll take a look at the super chat here. Just want to remind folks that the next segment we're going to dive a little deeper into their game mechanics. So I hope so far right now we've got a little overview of the game. We kind of focused on the lore a little bit more. We got Blackwell with the more historical fantasy side. Got Basic Expert just ripping off Fallout, but and adding Roadhogs in there. So he's won me over twice on that one. And then you have Dave Smith. Sorry, Dave Scott. Did I just call you Dave Smith?
You
Wow.
did. I thought my name was Jeanette.
I am like the worst freaking host today. Can I start over? Anyway, Dave Scott out there with Everyday Heroes. That covers everything. As long as it's modern, he's got it all.
Which by the way, rips off D20 Modern. So just so we get the ripped off concept.
There we go. Ripped off D20 Modern. There you go. Yes, can't play favorites here. Everybody's ripping something off. Well, my game, everybody knows what game I'm ripping off. So anyway, with a lot of differences. Anyway, let's where am I here? Oh yeah. So next we're going to talk about the game mechanics though, and we're going to find out what makes each one unique. As I said at the beginning of the live stream, each one of these systems. Now you might be, well, D20 Modern isn't unique. Well, did you miss the part where you said it kind of has a 5e twist? We're going to hopefully find out a little bit more about that in a moment. But before we do that, let's read our Ask Super Chat. Boom. Grizzly Beardo, thank you very much, Grizzly Beardo. Writing fluff for my game is particularly fun, but can be a grind. I'm curious what the general breakdown is for each of your games in terms of fluff versus mechanics. So we're going to start in the segment order here. We'll just start with Dave again on this one since he started segment 2. How do you want to answer this question?
Yeah, it's interesting because, both of my senior game designers came from a software engineering world. So they write their prose relatively logically, and they're particularly well suited for the mechanics bit of it. But we really encourage everyone to sort of let their hair down on stuff. And so we have the fucking weirdest concepts that come through, and it's great, right? So if you've got a strong base mechanic, which you don't mess with, that sort of supports it, but then you get something weird going on top of it, it's super fun. So one of our amazing art adventure writers, we wrote a con adventure for Gen Con called "You Must Be This Tall to Slay," and it's about basically a vampire that took over a water park named Hydrocula, who is building the strongest UV in the world so that he can be out during the day, and the players are kids that beat him with water guns and all sorts of crazy stuff like that. And so I would have never thought of that. But just making sure that you had a really strong base foundation allows the crazy fluff stuff to really shine. And I think that's where you get the magic with the combination of the two.
You know what? What is it with water guns and vampire? I blame Kevin Simbita. I've given him crap about that as well. It's the dumb. No, I'm not saying your game is here, but this is me talking to Kevin. We're talking Palladium books, right? We're not a slouch in the industry here. Water guns that stop mega damage creatures. I don't buy it.
Well,
at least with the kids thing, I do.
they're filled with oil from the garlic fries that they got.
Oh well, okay, different story. Now you start tacking on. No, that's actually I know, but that's good innovation right there, though. It honestly is. Like, do I think it should kill a vampire? No, but it definitely would hold it at bay, right? While somebody else is doing something. Absolutely. And you said this was for kids?
Yeah,
that's even better. Honestly, when you're stoking a child's imagination like that, I think that's nothing but a good thing. I joke, by the way, Dave, on this one because I get a bunch of people because we're kind of a somewhat de facto Palladium channel here. And so a lot of the Palladium nerds out there get angry with me because I despise Rift's vampires because you can kill them with super soakers. I'm like, it's a mega damage creature, something that requires tank rounds to even hurt. But you can kill them with super. So I'm kind of playing on something there, not busting the balls of your game at all. So
I keep pushing your buttons. It's like everything.
No, it's great though. No, you're supposed to do that here. Did you?
I love it. No, that's funny.
It's just, don't you see chat pushing my button? Actually, they're being really nice today. It's weird, except for Victor. Victor's trying to come in here and stir up some crap, but you know. All right, let's gotta have some fun, guys. Let's have Basic Expert now answer this question. If you want to reread it, you can, or I can read it out loud if you want one more time here.
Now I remember what it was about fluff in the game. I am not very good at writing fluff. So Atomic Punk is very like, this is what this faction is, this is what they do, this is what they believe. I don't give you like, in the year 20 whatever they did, like, you know, and they give you this long paragraph of like this exquisitely written lore. I'm just not good at that. So I don't really have that at all. I'm pretty like fluff light on my stuff. And it's actually funny because I did Makuhito a while back, and actually, because I had to write quote unquote fluff to give people the background information of like what it would be like to be an Aztec warrior. So that was like a real strain for me for that one. And I think by the time I was coming back around to do Atomic Punk, I was like, I just want it to be simple and just sort of like, this is just like the generic thing of like this faction or this area, and you can run with it and make it whatever you want. Like, I'm just going to give you the inspiration for that rather than tell you how it is. But that's just my own personal.
No, I'm starting to find that games that give me a rough background, like the world ended, nobody knows why, magic now exists, spaceships exist, or maybe not spaceships, you know, but laser weapons exist. We don't know why, but they're there. Go find. Allows me to manage the world and create my own verisimilitude more so than reading like, you know, a half a textbook of like Vampire the Masquerade to try to find out what the hell it means, you know, to understand, you know, the entire masquerade and diablerie and all these other weird words that you have to figure out. You know, I actually in my game, most people know that I'm ripping off Earth Dawn. There you go. It's what said. Drink. Everybody drink.
Water. So
lame. No, but Earth Dawn has heavy lore to it. I'm throwing most of that out. When you visualize the setting of the game, I want you to visualize, if you know the computer game Grim Dawn,
no
meets Earth Dawn. That's what I want you to visualize. But if you don't, I don't care. Basically, you're going to know that Aether mutates people and allows for magic casting. Good luck with that kind of a mutant to crawl classics type thing, you know, where it's like it's going to corrupt the crap out of you. And now people have weird super abilities. Other than that, I don't care what background you make for the game. Like, I don't. I want it to be your world. And if you say this stuff was planted down here by space aliens, or you want to say a super volcano erupted, or you want to say that somebody was playing around with forces that he shouldn't have been, and you are now in another dimension, I don't care. And I think that there's actually a simplicity for that your theme still gets across, but it allows the player, especially the game master, to make the world their own.
Yeah, Max, I got to tell you, like, I think that's a real theme that's going on now in modern day role-playing tabletop development. Like, I think people are pushing away from things like Pathfinder, which are so lore heavy and so prescript, you know, if that's even a word, and really go into stuff like that. Like, what you just said allows me to be able to paint my own picture about why it happened or how it happened, who it happened to. You know, it's interesting because we have this core rule book and we got a bunch of expansions like Total Recall, Highlander, Escape from New York. And what we found is that people will buy the Escape from New York and they'll read it and they'll never play it. Because we did a survey and over 80% of our customers prefer to build their own worlds with their own ideas.
Oh, it's funny you say that. I don't like most IP-based games. I might like the IP, but I don't like most IP-based games. I mean, Star Wars is kind of a different one because that's so big, you can kind of make it what you want. But I don't want to play Game of Thrones. I don't want to play Firefly. I don't want to play The Expanse. You know, some of these, like you're talking Rambo. I don't want to play Rambo. I want to be Rambo. You know, but I don't want to play so I like that conceptually, but yeah, I would absolutely want to make that something that's my own. But that's what's cool about the modern system, right? Where you have, like you said, those building blocks that you could just build what you want over that framework.
Yeah, and give them a little bit something. It sounds like Atomic Punk's perfect. It gives them just enough to allow them to sort of paint in all the corners.
Well, like I said, I want to encourage you to sort of like I mess up in the book. Like I give you a map of the Treasure Valley here in Idaho near the Boise area, and I have like locations of like here's a junkyard that's like an actual junkyard that's here. You can go visit it, but like there's a post-apocalyptic version of it, you know, and there's raiders that live there, and so I kind of want you as the player, as the referees, to go like, you know, we live in LA, like let's make a post-apocalyptic version of LA, and this is like where this is like the Cholo area over here, and then, you know, or whatever, you know, they got like the lowrider. You could go get your lowrider Hot Wheels cars and put them. You encounter them over there,
Sure.
but I want to just sort of encourage that sort of creativity, and I feel like sometimes less is more in that regard when you sort of just be like, this is what it is, and you can kind of like the tables we talked about earlier. You can kind of interpret them in varying ways. So.
Yeah, if you're such a protectionist that you have to have somebody run your game with only your vision, maybe you should make that just a campaign for your table instead of a game for everybody else.
Mm.
You know, and I'll get to you in a second here, Blackwell, to answer the question. But, you know, I rail on WotC constantly over its what word do I want to use, because we're supposed to be somewhat family friendly now. Screw it, over its rape of Dungeons and Dragons. You know, this whole idea that gnomes can be paladins and goblins are people too, and all this other nonsense.
Dwarven wizards.
What's that? Dwarf wizards? Yeah, that's, you know, for the Dutch out there. Only the Dutch want something as stupid as that, right? Anyway, love you too, Victor. But no, the idea is that the core book, I think he just said it a moment ago, where that should inform the setting. Now, if you want to go the opposite route with that and say, I want Dwarven Wizards in my game, that's fine. Do that at your table. But the setting, even without any Appendix N, without reading any book, I could get enough information from my AD&D 2nd Edition Player's Handbook to get a feel for the setting. I know how things go up in level. I know what abilities they get. I know generally, you know, obviously we know fireballs exist, yada, yada. But that's enough. I don't need Dragonlance. I don't need Forgotten Realms. Are they helpful? Is there anything wrong with them? Absolutely not. But the point that I'm making is you put the limitations in there to start, put the framework, have the mechanics influence the lore, so to speak, just by being there. And then if somebody wants to take it in a different direction, let them do it. But that's that person's table. I don't want to say, am I wrong about that? Because what's that?
Now you're reading my notes.
Uh-oh. Sorry about that. Well, let me read the super chat since it's $20 one, and then we'll get you to answer the last one, Ian Blackwell, because I want to make sure you get a chance to answer as well. All right, Gunther the Mad says, he's adding Dave. Adding a panelist is better not be evil or mean. To be fair, I never played Escape from New York, but I did incorporate the material into my game. To me, that's what supplements are for.
Yeah, I love it, Gunther. You know, and that's what we hear a lot. So people, basically they do is they buy our supplements and they take them apart and they do whatever they want to do with them. So one of my favorite actual plays about our game is someone took the Crow and the Crow and Highlander and mushed them together. And made their own world called Whispers of Time, and it's excellent. You guys can find it on YouTube, but 100%, like, and we love that. Like, okay, maybe you don't need to buy the supplement. We would love for you to, but if you're using it and you're finding value in it, we'll keep making them.
So, question for you on that, Dave. So you said 80% of people don't play the IP games. I believe that. I absolutely believe that. Do they sell better than the generic games, though? Now,
not
obviously,
really.
you want people really okay. That's it, because I've heard the opposite from other people that the IPs sell better, but nobody plays them. Right. But of course, they're game designers, so they want people to play their game, not just buy it, right? But I was curious if you had that same.
Yeah, well, you know, we came out with a lot. We came out with 8, and funny enough, Highlander sold the best, and Rambo sold the worst. Who knew? But interestingly enough, like, we sold a decent amount of each, but combined, we sold about just as many as the core rulebook. And here's one of the other why that might be the case, Max, is because we knew this was going to happen. We got super smart about it. So we created a supplement called the Vault, where we took out all the game mechanics from all the supplements. We filed off the serial number and put them in a generic book, which you can pick and choose from. and that sold really well. So I wonder if that's maybe the reason.
Yeah, you sent me the Vault one, and I went over it in my. I did a video of it, and it does seem cool. I actually didn't know that that's what you did, but that's smart.
You just kind of because eventually like IP goes away, like our licenses expire, and we wanted to make sure those mechanics lived on.
Awesome. Let's finish up this question. This is for you, Blackwell. You get a chance to answer it now. So it's about the writing of the fluff.
Oh, well, basically what you said earlier. We embed, as much as possible, we embed the lore in the game rules, including when we give examples. We do have a bit in our skills chapter explaining certain uses of skills. And then, of course, we have it in our setting chapter, but again, often being depicted as parts of adventures rather than giving you a block of text to read. The closest thing we have to a lore dump is a one-page summation of the history of the Crusades and the lead up to the present in the setting, as well as same page, a brief description of the 4 major crusading or knightly orders and why they're named that. And that's it. Like, that's the longest lore dump you'll get is a page. And generally, it's actually part embedded in the game. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I feel like
right.
trend, and it's a good one, because as soon as I learned that my gamers are just as creative as me, and like I give them the tools for them to be better than me at telling stories, I realized what my purpose was in life.
I think that, you know what, while it's not a focus on game design here, maybe in the next segment, but I think that we're getting some 10,000 foot level views of what people should consider for game design. Look, I've been trying, as I've said before, and I put it in chat, I think I've written 10 different games. I have over 3,000 pages written going back to 2018 of just stuff that I've wanted to put together that I'm too much of a perfectionist, so it's never going to be perfect for me. But I'm slowly, finally, after many years of getting out of that. I don't need it to be perfect. I need it to be good. I need it to be what I'm looking for, yada, yada, all those little catchphrases, right? And I think this idea that somebody has to have, like you said, a lore dump, or has to have 60 pages of lore just so I can get my point across so they know exactly how the world is, I honestly think that's not the right way to go about it. If you've got an IP, people already know the IP, right? I'm a Gen 1 Transformers guy. So if you read a Transformers game, I'm going to follow what I know about the Gen 1 Transformers. I don't care about the rest of the nonsense, Beast Wars and Armada and all. I don't care. It's going to be Gen 1. Whatever you write, it's still going to be Gen 1, whether you meant it to be that or not. People who like Firefly, as we've mentioned before, Stargate. There's a Stargate game out there. Just go watch the TV shows. You don't need it in the book, other than the rules should exemplify what the TV show is. The more time that you allow, and as Dave just said, you allow the players to take your game in directions, and I understand this. I think that for some people, myself used to be included, I don't like losing that little bit of control. No, I made the game this way for this reason. No, just make the world in terms of the mechanics fit the setting, and then watch the players go with it. Just I think that's kind of a modern design philosophy, but that a lot of people are taking on, and it seems to be successful.
Well, and if you think of it in terms of like a book layout, right? If you spend, I don't know, half a page talking about how goblins are supposed to be greedy and cannibalistic, that you're going to have less useful game content per page than if instead you have stat blocks that have the goblins doing that in the same amount of space.
What was it? Show, don't tell?
Yeah. And you'll just have a better game for people to enjoy. Because they're going to get more content.
What I will tell you is with the supplements, like, it was really fun doing some of the research and stuff like Highlander and stuff like that, like, and watching all the shitty movies. Like, did you guys know that there are 6 Universal Soldier movies?
Really?
Yeah. So
I didn't know there were 6. I thought there were 2.
6.
Yeah, I've seen 2.
So what was fun about it was we actually do go through the entire movie cinematography in the book. It's a good read for that particular book. So there's some fascinating components of it for sure.
Okay, well, let's finish up this segment here so we can get into mechanics. We can talk about all the ones and zeros of your games coming up here. Let's see. We read the super chats. By the way, thank you for the super chats. We're about a third of the way to a giveaway. If that happens, we still have 2 segments left though. And let me put this. Where's my thingy? There's my thingy. All right, the charity we support is the Wounded Warrior Project, a national nonpartisan organization whose mission is to honor and empower wounded warriors. Please refer to the video's description to the link. For the link, there we go, English, where you can hopefully make your tax. I quit. And this is why the Wounded Warrior Project gets no money from me, because I can't even shout it out properly. Link to where you can hope. I'm out. I'm done. Just look in the description. What
Good night,
the
everyone.
hell? Yeah, right? The show's over. Screw the other 2 segments. Waste their time. No, it's a true story, though, and I've said this for the last couple of weeks, but it is true, and I'll say it again. We used to do really well getting charitable donations for the Wounded Warrior Project. The last 2 years, not at all. I don't know what's different, but really, 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 I beg of you, maybe instead of a super chat, as much as I love them, and I bathe in them, maybe a donation to the Wounded Warrior Project would be great as well. We'll still have our Veterans Day stream. It's not going to be 24 hours this year. I'm too old for that now. But yeah, I would really love to see some more charitable donations. And I completely forgot to say, if you enjoy this discussion, please like this video, subscribe to, well, go buy their games that you can find in the description of this video. All right, I am just like the worst host ever tonight.
May I mention something about the game selling and answer the comment that just came up in chat?
Sure.
So have you seen the economy? So you're absolutely right. A lot of games prices are going up.
Yeah.
All of our games are $10 off right now for physical products, at least through the end of the week.
How do you do that?
Easy. We manufacture in the U.S.
Oh my
Tariffs
God.
don't do anything.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to talk to Kevin and Sean about that for Palladium, because I think they do. And they already keep their prices as low as they can as well. It's going to be a coincidence that they're raising some of their prices, but they had mentioned that a few weeks ago that, hey, they finally got to the point where they couldn't keep the prices down anymore and they have to bump them up a little bit. There's still, as far as a professional product goes, and when I'm talking professional, I'm talking, I'm not saying these guys here aren't professional. I'm talking the big ones that you guys know about, Chaosium, WotC, Palladium, yada, yada. Palladium books are the best priced ones that you're going to find out there, generally speaking, right, for those companies. But even they had to start raising their prices. So, I can't imagine. I'm nervous for looking at prices when I finally do decide one day maybe to finish my game and what that's going to entail.
So get this, guys. This is why DM Blackwell is the smartest person in the room. I literally have a shipment sitting in the warehouse in China right now, and I'm dreading it.
Oof.
What's no worse time than like
That's
right
terrible.
now? So smart guy.
He saw the future. He's a prognosticator. He's a witch. All right, we're going to start segment 3 here. We're going to be talking about game mechanics, and now we are going to start with the basic expert. All right, sir, what core rules or systems define how characters interact with each other and the world of your game, and what shaped your decision-making when creating those mechanics? By the way, that's just a fancy, for the folks out there, this is a fancy way of saying, what dice do people roll? How do they make skill checks? How do they make saving throws, if that's a thing? Yada, yada.
So the easiest justification I have for why the game is the way it is, like I said, Traveler is one of my favorite games, and D&D, particularly BX, is one of my favorite games. And so I sort of was, when I came to a certain point, I was like, what can I do to make these 2 games kiss? So 2D10, because I didn't want to do 2D8 or 2D6, and again I saw the spread percentile wise with 2D10, and I'm like, this is perfect. You're really just rolling 2d10 the whole entire time. You have hit dice and things like that are reminiscent of BX, and weapon damage, different size weapon damage dice, like a D8 for a rifle or something like that. And like D6s and D8s and stuff, D10s for hit die. So there's going to be lots of things that'll be familiar to you if you're familiar with probably old school D&D and Traveler. But mechanic-wise, the game is simple. 2d10, try and roll 11 or more after you've applied all of your modifiers to the roll. So super simple. It's just referencing the tables that I make you reference that make it more difficult.
How do you encourage? No, encourage isn't the right word. Well, I'll just go with it so I can ask a question. How do you encourage new players, or how do you get them to grasp the system and enjoy it sooner rather than later? Because you know how modern gamers are. You tell it to them one time, I don't get it, I'm out.
So yeah, the biggest hurdle, and it's some things people have complained about. They've complained to me about it. You know, like, I love the idea of your game, but I hate the weapon versus armor matrix. And I'm like, well, that's too bad. That's what I want. I make games.
I actually appreciate that. Sorry for interrupting, but I know I want the folks out there. I mean, next week we're going to be talking about TTRPGs as a niche hobby or mainstream business. Almost every business decision. God, can I stream tonight, please? Almost every business decision that I've seen made by a big box company might be good for money and the lowest common denominator, but bad for the general hobby. Or the as a hobby, I mean, not as a business. And something like that, somebody like TBE sticking to his guns on that and saying, you don't like the Matrix? Great, that's part of the game. Instead of going, oh God, okay, hold on, let me see if I can fix this, I think is much needed in this hobby.
Yeah, but I try and make it easy, because like one thing to your point about how do I make it easy for new players is that, first of all, I think that if it's someone who's never played tabletop role-playing games before, you're at an advantage if you're an alternative system like Horde Wars or Atomic Punk or anything like that, because they don't know anything. They don't know any better. So like you've got them as the first one, and so they have nothing to compare it to. It's kind of like if you start someone with like DX or AD&D or something, they're not going to complain about descending armor class because they don't know anything else. And so for me, I think if you're getting a new player to play something new, like, it doesn't matter what system you're playing, they're probably going to have a good time, unless it's like Fatal or something like that. But
God, I can't believe you mentioned that.
But so with the character sheet, though, I try to make it easy. So I kind of took a cue from like a very favorite Traveler character sheet of mine, because Traveler has the same problem, like as descending AC, where someone's like, I got to reference a table to like know and then like cross-reference what it is. It's like, okay, well, you don't really have to do that. You should be writing it in old school D&D. You should be writing your to-hit matrix on your sheet.
Yes.
And so the character sheets for Atomic Punk have they have like a space for like 4 or 5 weapons and like the different armor types and armor tiers and what your modifiers are for those. And then range as well. There's range modifiers. So it's sort of like you should have all the modifiers on your sheet. And so if I tell you, oh, you're shooting at them and they have metal armor on, you should be able to go look at it and go, I have a rifle. I know they're shooting at armor and I'm at a long range. So it's like these 2 modifiers. I get it like within seconds, roll my 2d10, add those modifiers to it. Did I hit 11 or better?
So I'm going to play devil's advocate for a moment. Right off the cuff here, I'm like, okay, you had me now it's starting to sound complicated. So it does, and for me it doesn't. But I want to be fair to some folks out there. You've taken me out of the game. I want more cinematic, yada yada, whatever it is people say, right? Is this one of those games that if you once you play it a couple of times, kind of like Champions in the phase system and so forth? Is it you play it a couple of times, boom, you got it?
I would think so. I think that like especially as you make attack rolls, if your character survives, especially as you play the game, you sort of know like. We're in this raider faction, especially like if they're encountering all the same type. Like let's say you're encountering some raiders and they all have hardened leather armor on. It's like, okay, you got to look up that roll one time, and then like going forward for the rest of combat, like it's going to be 2d10 plus this modifier every single time, And I think also like Vic pointed out, the referee can handle maybe some of that too.
Well, that's verboten nowadays too, putting work on the game master, because the game master is just another player at the table.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm not trying to be facetious or start arguments or whatever, folks, or just start mocking modern players, but these are things that a lot of game designers have come across listening to players talk about games. I don't know if TBE himself has, but I know a lot of people who.
I've heard all this. I just don't care. Like it does not enter my design thing. Because again, I design games that I like, and I like having that. When I played the first time I played Classic Traveler and ran it, and I saw how the weapon armor matrix stacked up after playing so much D&D with armor class, whether descending or ascending, I'm like, this is super cool. This is the coolest thing ever. To like, it makes weapons and because Traveler's so deadly, and my game's very deadly, so it's like it makes being smart, and it makes what weapon and armor you're wearing. Like in Traveler, am I wearing the reflect armor under the cloth armor in case we encounter lasers?
Right.
I want to have that underneath. So I wanted to have that same sort of thing there. So like I already went into it with like any game that I design. Like I go into it with what I like, and if other people like it, that's all the better to me.
Okay.
I made a game where you have to, sacrifice people to level up. So it's like
we call that macaroni here because nobody can pronounce mojito.
So it's like I have no qualms about designing games that nobody and kinds of games that no one else wants to really touch, I guess. So
okay. So how do your rules promote or discourage cinematic play? And was that intent? I mean, obviously it was intentional, so I don't have to ask the second part of that question, but how do they promote that, especially since you have to look at tables and...
Well, I don't think it necessarily like gets away from like a high narrative game. Because like, okay, you reference a table, you roll your 2d10 to see if you hit that round. Because again, I have 1 minute combat rounds. So like my assumption is that there's lots of back and forth. So like after all the rolls are made, the referee can describe it like, oh, you guys were doing covering fire. And then, as the enemy was changing from cover to cover, your character shoots his combat rifle and tags the enemy soldier in the shoulder, and he drops to the ground while the other ones make it behind the cover. Like you can still do that. It's just maybe it is broken up between like you have to reference things up to set it up. But I don't personally have a problem with that.
Sure.
So I don't think it's like not conducive to it. I just think it's maybe not. It's not in the most like the rules. I know some people say this all the time, and to a degree, I think it's with a lot of games. They're like, oh, the rules should fade to the back. But I love games, and I love interacting with rules, and I love mechanics. And so
role-playing game.
Yes. So like I think if the rules go too far into the back, you're not playing a game anymore.
Right. I agree.
And so they got to be there a little bit. And I have no I have no problem with like very rules like games, as compared to like some kind of pamphlet zine game or something more complex like AD&D or Traveler where you have to reference tables. I don't see these things as sort of like, oh, well, this one I can do cinematic with, and this one I can't. It's just a different mindset, I guess. So I guess I'm squirming my way around your question with an answer.
Well, no. I mean, because I already know I'm more narrative driven than you, but I mean, I'm not as narrative driven as say Mr. Max Boivin, who's now spurging out in chat over what you said. But that's the thing, is there are different styles of players, and what I wanted to kind of put out there is the fact that how to say this, you can be as cinematic or as gamified as you want with it. Sure, there's tables. I played plenty of games with tables in the past and never had that, like, oh, you ruined my immersion.
Yeah. I've
never had that. And I have players that definitely lean on the more narrative side than you. I know this.
Yeah, so I think that it's just you have to have a different mindset for it. Like, okay, I'm going to have to roll and I'm going to have to try and figure out this stuff. But after you figure out, like, okay, for this combat round you hit, the referee can be as like narrative and as detailed and as story driven in what happens in that combat round or what happens in that social interaction as they want to be. That's a stylistic thing that I think that many game systems can be as in that style, whether you want them to be or not, So.
And to be fair, I don't like beer and pretzel games, but there's a large contingent of people out there who do, and making games for people like that is also important.
And lucrative.
And lucrative, there you go, and lucrative, right. All right, do you guys have any questions, comments, concerns for the basic expert? Yeah, go ahead.
Just one. Have you ever played Rollmaster?
No, I have some Rollmaster PDFs, and I've looked through them, and it looks cool, but I've never had a chance to run it. Same with like Harn. Harn is another game that I want to play someday. But
I was
haven't had a
curious
chance.
because the way you were describing the attack matrix and stuff, it reminded me a little bit of Rollmaster, although thankfully your tables do not themselves reference other tables. It sounds
No. No, I went more like classic Traveler style, where you're just trying. There's two different tables you have to reference for modifiers to hit, and that's the weapon versus armor and range. And so that those are it. So and then
good.
And then you have your ability score modifier. If you're using your you use your agility score. If you're firing a firearm or your tough or your I can't even remember the acronym now. My ability scores, my 6, I changed them after the ODL.
It's not special?
No, it's atomic. It's atomic. They spell atomic. So I thought that was clever and fun. People seem to like that. But
yeah.
I'll tell you what mine is off camera. All right, I'm in that phase now where I don't want anybody stealing anything of my Earth. I mean, my personal game. All right, anything else for basic expert there? Okay, let's slide on over to Blackwell and have him tell us about not 2D10. He ups the ante. 2D12. So what core rules or systems define how characters interact with each other and the world in your game, and what shaped your decision-making when creating those mechanics?
Sure. So it's a D12 based game. So most of the time you're rolling 1D12 and adding a modifier to it, typically based on your character's skills, unless you are rolling to like resist something and then you're going to add your attribute instead. For example, you'd add willpower against like a mind control effect or this sort of thing. But yeah, it's roll equal to or above the target number. So if you want to hit someone whose defense is 8, you either got to roll an 8 on the die, or you've got to add enough with, say, your combat skill to the die roll to hit an 8 or above. Pretty straightforward. And then if you get a natural 12, you have a critical hit for combat or an automatic success in terms of other skills. If the thing you're attempting is not possible, the game master should not let you roll. We tell you that in the first 2 pages of the game rules. And the total game rules are really only 10 or 11 pages explaining how to play. There are a bunch of using those rules examples for for the character careers and so on. And one of the ways that we have characters interact with the world that I think is not completely unique, but isn't done as much as I think it should be, as far as the cinematic stuff you guys were talking about, is most of our characters have the ability to act off turn once in a given round of combat. And this could be something as simple as blocking an incoming attack with your shield. It could be maybe casting a haste spell. It could be making an additional, a follow-up attack, like a backslash when you're going after someone with your longsword.
That is something that when you were on previously that you mentioned that I was absolutely stoked about, because one of the things that I don't like counter spell and things like that, I want to know that he's coming in with a fireball and I can throw a water shield out there at the last second to hopefully try, maybe not guarantee a success, but try to do something like that. I love that more action reaction response other than, well, I have to wait till my turn, or I just throw out counter spell. Something more cinematic than that. And I haven't looked at it yet, but I love that conceptually.
Yeah, well, it helps because you kind of create the cinematic events that way by adjudicating the dice rolls and this kind of thing and using your character abilities. You could, for example, be the knight who managed to survive against the dragon's breath weapon when the rest of the party got melted to slag because you got your shield up in time and perhaps had a magic item on you that helped,
and a bit of luck.
Well. yeah. And so this can be a really fun and rewarding and create interesting events that way. Now, we have much faster combat rounds. We do 5-second combat rounds. And that's because I've been in a fair amount of fights in real life. I'm old and crippled now, but when I was younger, I did security work a fair amount, and that partially is a consequence of that. And so I have an idea of how quickly a fight can really move. Certainly hand to hand. And so that's why we went with the quicker rounds. And it's a happy coincidence. It gives you 12 rounds per minute with 5-second rounds, making it a little easier to remember in a D12 based game. But that being said, I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. I mean, so I'll let's kind of switch gears just a touch on that though. And can you explain how the progression system works and whether you aim for a quick advancement or a more gradual one?
Sure. So basically, the thing that sets player characters apart isn't really extra hit points. It's not better skills. It's actually that they get to start with 2 careers, not 1. Essentially, multi-classing is by default in our game. And so you begin with the full starting abilities of 2 of our careers. They're designed this way. And then as your character advances, you'll pick up perks and features. Perks basically change a number on your character sheet. Features give you a new ability, like new spells, for example, for a caster. And then you will twice over your character's progression, assuming he lives, you will hit a new tier of play. And when that happens, each of your careers and your starting and your species give you access to a capstone to pick from. So you'd have access to 1 from your species, 2 from each career, and that you essentially pick which thing am I leveling up in. So for example, let's pretend you were a knight and a red wizard combined together. So you got fire magic, haste spells, and you're running around in heavy armor and with sword and shield, and maybe channeling your magic through your blade. Great, that could be a lot of fun. But when you level up at a certain point, you'll have to decide: am I going to be focusing on being better with my shield, focusing on being better as a mounted combatant? Knights are good at riding and fighting on horseback. Am I going to focus on my magic instead? And if so, am I going to focus on like teleportation magic leading off from haste, or am I instead going to focus on the ability to burn my enemies to death? How am I, where am I leveling up? And this,
so it's kind of like, am I going to be a knight with some magic abilities, or a magic user with some knight abilities? I was going to say,
yeah. But then the subset of, as it, like, let's say you went, I want to be a knight with some magic. Are you going to focus on being really good at riding, or really good with your shield, or really good? It gives you a high degree of customization for your character, so that even if some other player started with the same 2 careers as you did, which is very unlikely, we have 21 careers. It is not common for players to wind up with the same pairing. But if you did, you will over time diverge significantly just by making different choices. So does that? And then as far as level up goes, we have a flat experience. You need 12 experience points to level up, and you get typically 2 to 4 experience points for each adventure you complete. An adventure may take a single game session. It may take several, depending on how effective you are.
Okay. All right. Do you guys have any questions, comments, concerns for DM Blackwall about Horde Wars?
I love professions. It adds so much flavor to the game world. So I think that's cool.
Thanks.
All right.
Well, and I should mention, John did our cover art for both books.
Okay, now now I'm gonna have to talk crap about his game or something. That's too much promotion for one person.
I'm a busy man.
Apparently, maybe get a job, son. No. I'm kidding, folks. Anytime I make fun of certain people, I get yelled at a lot, and Basic Expert is one of them. If I make a joke about them, people are like, that's not what John said or did. Okay.
I make fun of people all the time.
I know. Give me clips so I can put them on my... Never mind. He said all these poo-poo words about me. All right, let's move on. Let's go back to talking about everyday heroes here. So what core rules or system define how characters... Now, hold on. I'm going to give you a twist.
No.
I I think everybody here knows generically how the D20 system works. With that in mind, the twist is this. You kind of mentioned that it's a 5e, it's got 5e elements in there. What differentiates it from the generic D20 system? What makes your system stand out? And then just like these other guys did, talk about how cool it is like when players, do their game mechanic interactions.
Yeah, so I've got a story. We already established that I've got bad luck, right? Got bad luck. So when we first started the business, we wanted it to base it on 5e because we felt like Dungeons and Dragons was a great fantasy system. We felt like there was a lot of really great super science fiction system, but we felt that there's really nothing there for like the broad-based community for modern. So we wanted it to appeal to the largest amount of people we could. And we just got a ton of shit for it, right? Like, why are you doing on the 2D20 system or the World of Darkness system? Or why didn't you create your own? And it's fine. That's totally fair, right? But then when we created the book, what the whole theory is broad as possible. Everyone knows how to play D&D. And as soon as the book was on the boats, just like to now, that's when the whole OGL debacle came out.
Oh.
So we were like, oh, man, like a bad time to be on 5th edition, because I think they were charging at one point, and they're going to charge us 25% of our money or something. It was like absurd, right? And so we all lived through that whole process. So then we ended up hiring a lawyer, a guy named Brian Lewis from Missouri Law, who all of you guys probably know. He's the guy who actually penned the OGL 20 years ago or whatever. And we're like, what do we do? We're in trouble. So he's like, give me a copy of the book. He reads the book and he goes, good news. He goes, you're not doing anything. You're not actually adhering to the OGL. And so what had happened is that when we created the book, what we decided to do was we decided to read the OGL and then shut it and write the book from scratch. So we actually did not copy anything from the OGL. Thank God, Siegfried Trent. Thank God, Siegfried Trent and Google Ramsley did that. It was very easy for us to move from the OGL to the Orc. So now we're part of the official Orc license. We were one of the founding members along with Pathfinder, and we're so grateful for that. But the good news is that so we get some growing pains there. But it is essentially 5th edition, right? Like from the concept stage. But we had to fix a lot of things, like I told you about the defense rule. We had to fix the defense rule. We talked about chase scenes. We had to fix chase scenes. We had to figure out how to do firearms when firearms could kill you in one shot. And so those are a lot of the different types of mechanics that we got excited about building because that's stuff that D&D didn't have, and that we wanted to really make our mark in the world. Hacking. We have a whole paragraph on drug abuse and how to deal with narcotics in the game. So that's where we had an opportunity to veer and have a little bit of fun with the game.
I think honestly, more games need to do that. I know they try to sanitize the games to some degree, and they avoid things like Palladium still gets busted. They're all busted over the insanity. That's not nice. But when you live in a world that has insanities and has drugs and alcohol and so forth, and these are things that we joke about it in fantasy. So you go to the tavern, I get drunk. There any girls there want to do them? That kind of nonsense, right? But when it's actually a feature of, just society, I think things like that need to be put into the game.
Yeah, we got all the great tables for them. But yeah, I think you're right, and we had a lot. Like one thing that we did have a long debate around was disabilities, right? So let's say that your character's in a wheelchair. What does that mean? And we went back and forth on, is their movement slower? Is their movement faster? And then ultimately we decided that we were not going to make any changes to the character. It's just going to be flavor. So that we didn't sort of unfairly disadvantage someone who was in a wheelchair versus someone who is mobile. And so we had to make some really hard decisions like that in the game that could be controversial, but had to be done.
Well, let's be fair about that, though, because I'm going to be upfront. I 100% disagree with that, but I can do that. But I can do that at my table, right?
You 100%
Yeah,
can.
yeah. So I mean, so I don't know if you know Discami, Big Eye Small Mouth, Mark McKinnon from Discami. He's got this thing called the manifesto at the beginning of his book, and I disagree with probably 90% of it. But, and we've had him on the show a bunch of times. He's a really nice guy to talk to us. But we'll just say his politics and my politics aren't quite the same, and that can come out of it. But one of the things that he talks about is his book is a manifesto. It's not a cop. It's not a law book. So if, for sake of argument, and I'm saying this because I already know that there are people probably typing some angry comments right now after hearing the wheelchair stuff, so I want to kind of head some of that off, which is this: you can still do what you want at your table. Just because the core book makes no distinction on that doesn't mean you don't have to make a distinction on.
No, I think that's 100% right? Like, for example, I mean, and that's what we ultimately came up with, right? So your character's blind. What does that mean? Well, I mean, if you're Daredevil, that means you got heightened senses. You get to roll advantage on hearing and taste. But like it wasn't us to decide what blindness meant to your character, and so we pushed it back to the decision of the table.
Fair enough. No, that's it. Okay, I get that. What would you think is? Oh my God, I can't talk. Actually, no, I want to ask this one first. So is this closer to 3E or 5E? And I'm going to use my fun terms. Is it more like 3E with the Lego characters, prestige classes and so forth, or is it more like 5E with subclasses?
Oh man, gosh, that's good. It's definitely more like 5E.
Okay.
Because prestige classes are tough. Because I think, if I remember correctly, the way prestige classes work is that you're a generic class until you get to like 5th level. And then if you hit certain attribute requirements, then you got to pick a prestige class. And that's actually how D20 Modern worked. And we hated it because you couldn't get into the fun parts of your character. Like if you're a martial artist, you couldn't get into the fun parts of being a martial artist until you're like 5th level. So you're granted the benefits of of your character class right from 1st level. And that's how we made the change.
Okay. No. Hey, you honestly,
No.
I came in here going, it's a 3E clone. Okay. Oh, did you drop?
Yeah, I did for a minute, but I think I'm back.
Okay. Yeah, it probably froze for a second. It happens. It's streaming. No, you're putting me in a position where I like your game more because I despise 3rd edition more than you can, and Pathfinder. I hate them as role-playing games. They're great computer games. They're horrible role-playing games for my taste. With that said, you keep pointing in a different direction here with the terms like it's more like 5E. I can't stand the Lego characters of 3, but I think subclasses, because they remind me of kits from 2nd edition, it makes much more sense. I'm actually very intrigued. Again, modern isn't necessarily my thing to play, but I'm very intrigued with what everything that Everyday Heroes has to offer. So you're selling it to me, sir. You're selling.
Well, I mean, we spent a year and a half building the game, and we had a lot of really seasoned developers that were part of it. Jeff Grubb was part of it. Rich Redmond was part of it. Like Michelle Slavicsek Carter, who's the wife of Bill Slavicsek. Like we had a lot of people that were putting it involved. We fixed a lot of problems. For example, one of the most controversial changes that we made is we capped the leveling at level 10 because level 11 through 20 sucks in D&D and it's hard to play. And we got a lot of shit for it, but everyone knows it. So we just made the decision to go ahead and cap it. So yes, Everyday Heroes is the game. Yeah. And someone asked, do we do juicer characters? You could. I don't think we've done that yet. I think that's
the 3rd riff's called. We're gonna have riffs. We're gonna have savage riffs, and we're gonna have everyday riffs.
Yeah, we'll do a juicer character. Why not? That'd be fun.
We'll talk to Kevin. We'll see if he's up for that. Crap. Bill Slavic. Didn't he do Alternity?
Yes.
I don't know what else he's done. I know the name, but like Jeff Grubb, wasn't he part of Planescape?
Yeah, not only that.
Yeah, then I can't take anything he says seriously. What's that? Yeah, the two worst settings for Dungeons and Dragons. I'm a second edition guy. I already get enough hate out here as it is. And then you got
I'm so sorry, Jeff. He knows not what he says.
no. There are a couple other friends. There's some friends that have had him on the show, and they're like, "You should get Jeff Grubb on to say what? That I can't stand Planescape." Like, Manual of Planes is a much well, actually just get rid of Sigil. Get rid of Sigil, however the hell you want to pronounce it. And I don't have such a problem with Planescape, but that's the dumbest thing ever. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. But to be fair, they do know game design, right? I mean, Alternity is a game we're going to be covering this year. And I think it has some very interesting design going with what Basic Expert is saying about armor versus weapons. Is actually one of the games that I was looking at for that. So, hey, not everything can be a winner, right? But I got Alternity. Well, which version of Alternity? The original TSR version or the remake? The remake is horrible.
TSR. Actually, I've never played it before.
It's one of those that I wish it's I have it on my shelf. It's not a guilty pleasure. That's Battlelords of the 23rd Century. It's my bucket list game. I have to play Alternity. I have it. I'm going to be covering it. I've used it as ideas for rules that going forward. I just have never played it, and I'm angry about that.
I'll play it with you. Just tell me when. Never played it before.
Yeah, I'm very interested in. I want to get a live group. When I stop doing YouTube videos, that's going to be one of the things, which will be never one of the games that I definitely dive into. And I'm looking really, really forward to that game this year. So I asked you that one. Oh, so what would you say is the biggest misconception about your game? Again, I'm asking these questions specifically because a lot of people, when I said that you were going to come on, were like, "Oh, yeah, it's D20 Modern. Who cares?" But obviously, we're learning it's more than that, right? And we're learning that it's bigger, it's broader, it's why you're almost like the Savage Worlds of the D20, where it's like you're incorporating everything, and you're just gonna have this litany of D20 everyday games, we're gonna call them. But what would you say is the biggest misconception about your rule set, and how do you clarify that?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think a lot of people think it's a copy of 5e, or it's a copy of 3.5, and so they don't even try to play it. Because they just have a bias against those types of systems. And I think that when they read it, when they play it, they love it. So we have over like 1,000 5-star reviews. We have like 300 5-star reviews on drive-through. So people love the game, but they got to try it. If they don't try it, they're not going to love it. So yeah, I think is it a copycat of 5e, or are we doing something different? And we have just enough differences to make it really fun.
No, I mean this in all sincerity here. I came into this going, I'm not going to disrespect somebody on this show. That's just not what I do here, which is why I don't invite certain people on the show. But I knew I was going to struggle with this going, everybody who watches this knows I can't stand third edition is the most garbage edition of Dungeons and Dragons ever. Like I prefer 5e more, yada, yada, right? And I'm sitting here like, how am I going to do this? But honestly, throughout this conversation here, you've hyped me up for it in a way that I wasn't expecting. And so I think that, if other people out there have these misconceptions, I mean, a couple people have already said in chat that they bought it. So, so there you go. We got a couple sales out there, but I think that's important for people to know. It's not just a 3e or 5e clone.
Yeah, it really is its own thing. And I think we tried hard to fix a lot of problems, because I think that was one of the things that when Jeff and I were talking about the rebooting D20 Modern, we first started with how many issues 3.5 introduced into the system. You know what I mean? Like these prestige classes, for God's sakes. So it was very exciting to be, and I think for him, hindsight's 2020, right? So we released the game on the 20th anniversary of D20 Modern. That means that people have been playing his game for 20 years and giving him feedback about it for 20 years. So he was chomping at the bit to fix certain things that he knew he could fix to make it a better game, like the wealth system.
Awesome. Well, you know what? That's why a lot of games have would say future editions. Why basic became advanced, why advanced became second, why second. To be fair, I mean, yes, a different company, but let's be honest. As much as I hate it, third edition reawakened the Dungeons and Dragons aspect of the hobby. I don't have to like it. It's just, it's what happened, right? So, tastes change, people change, and when you get a reinvigoration like that, if that's what Everyday Heroes does, if it takes, it's just D20 Modern, no, to that next level, all the better. All right, do you guys have any questions, comments, concerns for Dave?
Not so much, but I'm
Okay.
curious how you handle well, basically, how do you handle random encounters, if at all? I haven't heard you address that too much, especially when you're kind of covering a bunch of different subgenres.
Yeah, so each book has like a set of random encounters for it that are appropriate to that setting. And so we have a random encounter table on most. The most fun random encounter is the Kong Skull Island adventure that we created, because literally that entire island's trying to kill you. The plants are trying to kill you, the monster the atmosphere is trying to kill you. And so literally like just walking through the jungle on that could literally kill you. And so that was like a really fun mechanic that we created. One of my favorites is that we're coming out with the bestiary for Kong, and I actually wrote one of the monsters, which is called Singing Blades, and literally it's blades of grass that cut you with micro fissures and dose you up with a paralyzing drug. So eventually you fall over and it absorbs your body. Like that kind of stuff is so fun. So we tried hard to create those random encounters, and like, if you're in Rambo, it's it's some gorillas coming at you. If it's, something else, it might be, some street gangs, Escape from New York, you can run up on a street gang just all of a sudden. So we try to make it perfect for the setting itself.
And is it fairly robust or a fairly short list in terms of, like in the core game, for example?
Yeah, I can't remember. I think mostly everything fits on a D20. I don't think we've got like a table that's a D100. So probably about 20 or so per setting that we throw out there. Not a lot, but enough for you to add some flavor to the situation. What do you think about random encounters, though? Do you like? I mean, do you like them or hate them? Because I know some people love them, some people hate random encounters.
I think that they're great depending on the genre. I think it's really good, for example, in a post-apocalyptic setting or a points of light setting, like John and I our separate games we're talking about here, because of the nature of the setting. In modern, it may not be relevant. For example, if you just live in a modern city and you're driving to the other side of town, it's probably not an encounter, other than maybe a traffic jam or something. But if you're walking through certain neighborhoods, then maybe.
I don't know. I was going to say I watch a lot of police videos, and those are pretty random.
but so I think depending on the genre, it can be really good.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, like with the Kong and Escape from New York, random encounters make perfect sense. But with a Universal Soldier, where it's sort of you against the government, it makes less sense, right?
Yeah.
Or Pacific Rim, where it's like, oh, random encounter, a kaiju shows up. No, that's a major encounter,
and then you die because you were in your suit.
One of the things that even I do in like a fantasy game, so like what second edition AD&D has all those D20 tables, and some of them are even bigger depending on what books you got. I actually pared them down to a D6, so it's like they were still random encounters, but they're more controlled random encounters. And for me, because while I do believe it's a game, I also don't like to spend time looking stuff up when I'm at the table. I knew I could have 6 monsters prepared, ready to go, whatever, in my head, know exactly how I'd want to introduce them if they're rolled up, depending on where the players were, yada, yada. So I'd pair them down a little bit. So maybe you call them pseudo-random, but I think random encounters are awesome. I think they're good for the game master as well, in the right genre, as you guys are talking about, because it kind of surprises the game master. And as the game master, I sometimes like to be surprised, like, wow, okay, well, don't know how this happened, but as long as it's not clown shoes, as I like to call it, it can add a bunch of interest. If I drive to work tomorrow, like you said, traffic jam, well, what happens if there isn't a traffic jam? What if we had storms last night and a gust of wind comes through and blows a car into the road? I mean, that's still a random encounter. Doesn't mean it has to hit me, but you see what I'm saying? Like you can tailor your random encounters. I think they're not mandatory, but I think they can absolutely be beneficial.
Yeah, I like that.
So Dave, do your mechanics place more emphasis on group cooperation, individual heroics, or kind of a balance of both?
Well, we'd love to have everyone sort of shine, right? Like if you've got like a scientist and you're like, yeah, I know the layout because I downloaded the blueprints the other day. That's kind of a cool heroic experience that you get to play on it. But I was actually reading through a couple of our adventures, and we rely really heavily on a lot of group checks. Partly because I think that's a really big deal. We actually have a really interesting set of characters. One of them is called the leader, where the leader can actually give their actions away to different people and have them do things. They actually have a special genius plan, which allows everyone to take an extra move that turn, which is really interesting when it comes to how you're playing this game. We are actually called a manipulator, which is actually they're like the leader, but all the effects are done on the bad guys. So one thing is they can be like, "Look at me, guys!" And then they cause disadvantage on every other attack, unless because they're solely focused on that person.
So in computer MMO terms, that's the debuffer.
The debuffer, yeah, exactly.
I like that because I think a lot of games either miss out on that, or when you compare the quote unquote buffer versus the debuffer, the buffer is always the better one. I love the fact that you've incorporated the debuffer into the game. Pardon me for the MMO terms, but it's just helping to explain it out there. No, I actually like those kinds of things. So I'm the guy that used to play necromancers and things like that. So things that put dots on people or is all types of creepy or negatively affect somebody instead of just giving you your little glowy, oh, look at me, I'm better now. I love that aspect.
We actually have a character called the mastermind, and basically they're like the Hans Gruber of the party. They've got a special ability called "You Did That Wrong." So basically, if someone misses an attack, you go, "You did that wrong. You should have swung at a different angle," and they get a free reroll. So
nice.
Teamwork and stuff like that we throw together that we think is super fun. That you wouldn't see in a traditional 5e game.
Well, and every gamer nerd likes to say that to every other gamer nerd. You did that wrong. How many times we been at the table and some player tries to tell another player what to do? Well, now guess what? There's a class for that, jerk.
Exactly.
All right. Do you guys have anything for Dave with regard to the general mechanics of Everyday Heroes? All right.
No, just the encounter thing.
No, that's fine. I just want to give a moment, make sure you're not like, oh, hold on, I cannot talk. I'm telling you, worst stream ever because I cannot talk today. I don't know what's causing this.
It turns into your most popular stream.
Hey, that'd be awesome. Well, it'd just be for mockery of me. Like, look at Max, he can't talk. Haha. That's what it'll turn into. And then that will take away from why we're really here, your games. All right, well, the next segment, the final segment of tonight, we're going to ask them, why should people play your dumb game? Okay, your awesome game. But so we'll get them to answer that in a moment. We have a super chat in here that I got to get to. Grizzly Beardo says, this would be more for Dave. Apparently he likes to ask Dave questions here, but maybe not. What advice do you have for writing fun new rules within an existing rule set? What's that sweet spot between house rule and that's going to be going in the book? And we're actually going to start with Basic Expert. Since we're in segment 3, we'll start with Basic Expert on this one. Then we'll finish with Dave on that one. TB, what are your thoughts on this?
What advice do you have for writing fun rules within an existing rule set? I think for me, like what I would say is you need to look at what the rule set's already doing, and then, or you need to look at what you want to do, if it's a setting or whatever. Is there a rule set that already exists that would work really well for it? So, like, let's say you want to do, I don't know, super gritty medieval combat, like no monsters. It's just people versus people, like you're doing a historical game. You know, maybe you want to look at like the Cephas engine or something like that, you know, kind of experiment with it. When I was doing Malquahedel, for example, I really struggled with it because I originally love BX. I wanted to make it for BX. It just wasn't working. And then when I finally looked at 0E, which is, people might say like it's the same game, but they're really not. They're very different beasts when you get down to them. You sort of start to see how the game functions, and I kind of realize like, whoa, this system, because it's a little more gritty, it's a little more grounded than like later editions. Like this is perfect for what I want to do. So I don't know. I think you just have to know what it is you're trying to do, and you need to view the system as a toolkit to do what you're trying to do. And sometimes you come to the conclusion, this is not your answer to your question, but sometimes you come to the conclusion that like, I need to make my own thing. I need to, or I need to so heavily change the system, it's not even that thing anymore, to make it work. I think
you said toolkit. One of the words we like to use here a lot is framework.
Yeah.
Is the rules should be a framework that the game master can adjudicate. It doesn't have to have every little thing in there. If the rule doesn't add to the game, and I don't mean add to the game like as in text, I mean add to the actual setting, flair, whatever of the game, you don't necessarily need it. Scope creep is the number one thing that keeps kicking me in the butt. I have this concept, and then all of a sudden I'm like, but this, and then all of a sudden I'm like, what's just happened to my game? What I originally started with doesn't even work anymore because all the scope creep I put into it, but I can't take it away at this point because I love it. So I have to start over again.
He's a good editor.
Well, that's the funny thing is I'm a much better editor than I am writer.
It's hard to edit yourself, though.
Yes, 100%. And they tell you that when you do, like, I'm a technical writer, right? You're not supposed to edit your own writing, but man, writers. It's funny. Kevin Simbita said this about artists versus writers, and I thought this was great because this is my experience as well. Remember, I was a graphic artist in the Air Force. For those who don't remember, asking somebody to adjust some art, not that big of a deal. It's almost like they expect it. Mm-hmm. Asking a writer to rewrite something is the end of the world. As somebody who's done both, I resemble that remark. Yeah. If I'm doing some layout and design, it's not a big deal for somebody to come in and say they want something smaller, bigger, different color, whatever. Telling me that you want me to write something differently means you're going to get stabbed in the throat.
I'll give this advice too. I think that one thing to realize is sometimes people, like, I think part of what you're saying, why you feel that way too, is sometimes people give you feedback, but they don't understand the vision in your head. Maybe you haven't explained it well to them. Maybe they don't understand it, period. They never will understand it. I mean, funnily enough, one of the things that I've kind of discovered, and I've talked with Victor Gorchev about this and others, is like, sometimes when you give people like the mid thing, they don't understand it. And so they give you feedback and they're like, you're like, that doesn't make any sense because it doesn't work with what I'm trying to do. But they don't have the full vision. But then if you give them the full vision, even if it's like not super great, I feel like people are willing to accept the warts and maybe some of the things that don't work super well, because they kind of at that point see your overall vision and they're like, oh, I get what he was trying to do. So I can kind of let some of these things slide because I see what's being aimed for.
Would you say that's where, as you said, the toolkit or the framework works really well? Stop trying to overdevelop your game and just put that frame. I'm not saying put out crap or like 2 rules and that's it. Like, I don't like one page. I don't like Rises. I'm sorry, I just don't. But I know a lot of people out there do. But would you think that's where the framework just kind of, did you build the frame that's necessary to play the game? Yes, move on.
Yeah, so like I would say when you're designing something, I think key things to look for are like character creation and combat. If your game uses a lot of combat, are those 2 things? Because those are the things that you're going to be doing a lot of in most role playing games. Let's be honest. Are they going to do the things you want them to do? If it's a super heroic game, like where it's hard to kill the player character, you probably don't want to do your super hardcore gritty military simulationist game in that system. Like, it's probably just not going to work. So I would say look at the bare essentials that you need for your game to work, and if you can see that in another system, that might be a good system to pursue using.
You raise a really good point as well, which is like a really good developmental editor will really understand what's behind your mission, so they're not making stupid edits that don't fit with your world vision. we had a knockdown, drag out fight between our editor and our writer over the travel speed of a lunar rover. So we wanted to create a chase on the moon where they were being chased and they were chasing each other on lunar rovers. And the writer wanted to be like, they go 30 miles an hour. Well, technically they go on average 12 miles an hour. But just that understanding that the writer was like, no, this is an action film. It can go in an action film 30 miles, but just having that understanding was what was missing between that editor and that creator.
Yeah, that's why I think like Victor and I have talked about it all the time. Like you could present something, you could present a rule or a concept in a game, and people like will not accept it because they don't have the full vision. But then you release the full game and they're like, they accept it. They'll accept everything. And it's like, why is it like that? Well, because the vision's complete, even if it's not constructed well, maybe if it's not as concise or as perfect as anyone wants it to be, because it's a holistic vision at that point, people are like, oh, I get it. And again, I'm willing to look over the warts and all because it's a complete vision.
It's funny because one of the reasons that I don't have anybody helping me write my game, it's a lot of historical context to it, but is because of that. Oh, I'm gonna make this class. So I was doing a science fiction game a bunch of years ago. Actually, this is probably around 2015. So maybe I've been actually doing 10 years. I've been trying to write a game. And I had some people come on in to say, hey, help. Let's come up with brainstorm some character classes and so on and so forth. And none of them met my vision. And I was like, I appreciate your help. And since it's my game and I'm the 51% owner, I'm going to make the decisions on this. But here's what I'm looking for. Well, if you don't like my input, then I'm just not going to do anything anymore. Bye. And I had that multiple times. And it's like, no, I was asking you to tweak it. I was letting you know that a bounty hunter in my game is not a class. That's just a profession. That's just, if you get paid to go, collect bounties, you're just a fighter, so to speak. I want things that are unique. This is for something I was working on in the past, but I want something that's unique and individualistic, not just a profession that, we'll just leave it at that because I don't want to dive into it, but you get the idea. And people just, well, if you're not going to take it, then obviously I'm not good enough for you. I quit. It's like, what the hell, guys? like
I think a problem too is a lot of people in the hobby, even myself included, I have like horrible imposter syndrome, and I'm always, every time I release something, I don't know if any of you guys feel the same way, I'm just like, I hope people like it, and I hope it's not trash, and I hope that like I'm not like the emperor with his clothes off.
Imagine being the guy that critiques other people's writing in books. I already know some of you people out there are just waiting.
You kind of did that to yourself, but
that's fair.
But I kind of feel like total imposter syndrome a lot of times, but that you kind of just got to do it sometimes, especially if you have a vision. Just do it. It's
and that's what I've finally come to. We'll get to Blackwall here in a second, but that's finally what I've come to as well. To be is like, I'm writing this for me, and if you don't like it, don't buy it. Shove off.
That's the only way. Sanity.
I hate to disagree, but with that, there are things that feedback is incredibly important for. For example, did you write a rule clearly? Like, you may have a great vision in your head, but you could write in such a way that an average reader will read what you wrote and not know what you meant.
That's the number one editing issue of games. That is the number one editing issue.
Yeah. And so it's really important, actually, to have other people try out your game without you explaining it to them and see if they understand how to play the game.
I'm not saying never get feedback. I'm just saying, like, sometimes the feedback that you get is not, it doesn't align with the vision. You should change this to this. And it's like, well, that doesn't align with what I want to do. I don't want to increase the hit points here or whatever, just an example,
Or what I've run into in the past, listening to, so I've been part of old NDA play test groups, and be like, hey, we want you to play test the magic system of our game. Okay. Guys, I don't like the way guns work. Well, that wasn't but I'm hung up on that. I can't get past guns. I'm not even going to look at your magic. It was literally only this, you only accepting entries for this box right here, and you did this. Well, if you're not going to listen to me, that means you hate your gamers. You hate the people who want to buy your game. It's like,
Yeah.
I that was in the late 90s and early 2000s when I was playtesting games under NDA, and I was like, are these people for real?
You just kind of you sort of have reinforced some positions and views I have about the hobby. I guess it's always been this way. It's not anything new.
No, it's not new. It's just bigger now, so it's more noticeable.
Yeah.
So Blackwell, I want to get back to Grizzly Beardo's question here. The most important part being the last part is what's that sweet spot between house rule and that one's going in the book?
Well, purpose and design. So, for example, if you are trying to ad hoc a rule for a given situation that really isn't covered in the game rules of the game you're playing, or you just can't find it or something, I think that's probably fine when you're running the game. But you should, as much as possible, actually follow the rules of the game. It's really the situations where the rules don't cover things that you need to think about that as like a game master. But on a design end, like I'll do some house rule stuff like on occasion for a specific to handle a specific thing, or how to phrase this, to make a rule a little more intuitive. Like some game systems have rules where let's just say the math breaks down. And so making sure that the math makes more sense for the players at the table, that sometimes can help, speed up gameplay and help other people have a good time. But when it comes to writing a rule that goes into like a product, whether it's a module or something else, I think you really need to have robust playtesting, not only to catch issues with people understanding your writing, but also to catch, how to phrase this, creative exploitation of what you wrote. That you want some playtesters who will try to break the game, who will try to make rules and abilities do things they were never meant to do, or interact with other things in ways they were never meant to interact with. And that's really good. That actually helps you make a better, complete game with less need for house rules if you do that up front.
I can't agree with you more on that. My thing, going back to what I said a moment ago, is playtesters need to conform to what the playtest is. If somebody says, "Hey, playtest Magic," and you're out there playtesting guns, you're not you're not actually helping the playtest group out. So I come from a background of doing a lot of hell. I work in wargaming right now for the Air Force. Okay, but in my past in IT, I was part of building global projects. And rehearsal of concepts are a thing. You do a lot of pre-production. You do a lot of testing and evaluation. You'll test the same thing 52,000 times to find the one anomaly. It can be annoying, but there's a reason for all of that, right? And it does become frustrating when you say, "Hey guys, need you to test this one thing," and they go test something else out and come up with a whole different set of issues. Like, we're not there yet. Can you focus on this one part, because this might break, or that might break because we don't get this right. There's something in my head I was just thinking of. It keeps slipping. Oh my God. Not testing the right thing. Another thing is there's kind of a system for playtesting. I want you just to play the rules. Don't break it. Don't change them. Do exactly what the rules said, nothing more, nothing less. We need a few weeks of this. Now I want you to break it after I've made some adjustments or something. And sometimes you get people right off the bat like, "I already see the problems with this one." Just follow the damn phases, folks. Like now, maybe indie playtesting isn't so regimented, but the more formalized playtesting that I was part of in the past, whether it was even for video games or for tabletop role playing games, always had a formalized process, and it just blew my mind when people couldn't follow that process. They wanted to do their own thing, like, "Hey, I changed like 3 of your spells." Again, with the hooked on Magic here, I changed 3 of the spells in your game. I think they work better like this. That isn't helping me play test what we need here.
I think it's everyone wants to be a designer and a writer,
Well, everybody's smarter than everybody else. I say this, and it's funny because I say this in IT. I don't know if it's true in the corporate world so much because I only worked corporate a couple of years, but working for the government, every IT technician analyst, whatever, thinks he's better than every other IT technician and analyst. And one of the things I do on my team is I right off the bat, you're not going to play that game. You're not going to do that. You're going to sit here and if the customer says he's got a problem and wants you to look at it, even if you 100% know you're right, you're going to look at it. And you're never going to pass it off to somebody else until you've not only guessed or used your experience, but verified with your eyeballs that we are not the people that are at fault. Well, and because of that, because everybody's like, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't. Just today, we had an issue where somebody was like, did you check the cable? Well, of course I checked the cable. Guess what it was? Because because everybody wants to be the smartest guy there and look for the deepest root cause issue and just plug in the cable.
But sometimes people really are smarter at a given thing or have a better idea of even just how to phrase something.
Sure.
They might go, hey, I read your rule. I think you're trying to say this. Mm-hmm. Is this what you meant? And sometimes that response is, yeah, that was better. That was a better way to phrase that, a better way to say it.
No, I'm not saying don't take advice. But my point is in the generalist sense, of the four of us, we all think we're better game designers than the person next. So to speak, when you get into a room of nerds, they all seem to act like well, I'm better than you. I know more than you. You know what? All of you guys know more, or somebody out there watching right now knows more than me about some particular subject ever. I don't care. But you know what you don't know? You don't know my vision. You don't know his vision. You don't know his vision, and you don't know his vision. That's why I think that the formalized playtesting process, again, maybe not for indie games, but just in general, just comply with whatever. If TBE puts out his book and says, we need to figure out how massacring people here affects domain play in Makahito or something like that. How much blood do we have to spill to make the trees grow? Don't go licking frogs. I don't know. Anyway, let's Dave pop in here. We're still in the same super chat, and we're running. Thanks to me, we're now running late.
I'll answer it quick. So what we do, which is a lot of fun, is we actually tell people how to build new rules in our game. So when you read our backgrounds, at the end we tell you how to make your own background. When you read our professions, we tell you how to make your own profession at the end. So we are actually really love when people are innovating because we can't cover every single modern genre that's out there. So
I like the idea of, every game master should feel entitled to do that anyway, is my take. But if you have a framework or a system for that even just makes it better.
Yeah, and then that way it's more sure to be balanced in the system, which is the thing I think DM Blackwell talked about, which is running all these scenarios. So that way, then at least it's a fighting chance that someone doesn't make something OP'd. With
regard to Grizzly Beardo's question, how do you know when in your game though, as you're writing it, that rule is like, yes, that's not something we're going to say for later or just like game masters figure out, but that's something that's going to make the grade?
God, I don't know. What's so funny is my designers are so brilliant. Like, I just want to give a shout out to my designers. They just know it intuitively. Like, I read some of the stuff and I'm like, I wouldn't have not even come up with that. For example, we're doing a Return of the Living Dead game. Basically, if you know Return of the Living Dead, the movie, these zombies don't die. You could bash their head in, they don't die or whatever. Not only that, but like if you chop their arm off, their arm then comes and attacks you. So they had built this like really brilliant mechanic for that I would have never thought of doing. Like, holy cow. So like I think they're good enough, they're experienced enough, they figured all that stuff out. And so I feel like the imposter sometimes in the design room.
Are you the vision guy?
I'm the
no, but that's good. See, that's actually one of the events. That's what I wanted to be, is I wanted to be the vision guy. Here's the vision. Here are the constraints. You guys have some really good ideas. Let's run with it. But apparently a lot of the people I know are, it's my way or the highway. I write, it goes back to the whole thing. I'm smarter than you. Probably true for most of them. So either take it or leave it. And but that's not the vision of my game. Yeah. So
I used to be the guy. Now I've seceded that to my Discord channel. So they actually make a lot of the decisions for me. we crowdsource decisions now. So I'm just
Nice.
really, Max. I'll be honest with you.
It's awesome. All right. Okay, well, let's Basic Expert will be back here in just a moment. We are going to jump into segment 4. And segment 4, now to be fair, we're kind of reaching end time here. We got a half-hour wiggle room here. But here's the fun part about segment 4. All we're going to do is ask them, why should people play their game? Now, they give a 30-second elevator pitch, that's great. If they give a 5-minute, like, no, I got all these great, awesome. If they talk for 20, okay, please don't talk for 20 minutes. But
no
if
filibusters,
no filibuster, because people will forget what you said. But no, whatever they've got, it's now time for them to excite you about their game. So I don't think that this final segment is going to be that long. I already read the super chat, so let's pop this bad boy up on the screen right now. Boom! Look at that. Just as a reminder, Game Master Insight airs live on Fridays at 6 p.m. Central Time, except for the last Friday of the month. Once the stream ends, the complete. Oh, I don't know. Do I want to make this one wait a month? Typically, I haven't decided on this one. The live stream stays exclusive for YouTube members, but the 4 panel discussions become available to everyone a month later. I might sneak this one out earlier. I don't know. Anyway, if you enjoy this discussion, please like this video, subscribe to all the panelists' channels, buy their stuff. You can find it in the description of this video. If they haven't enticed you already, how are you still watching and not fully enticed to buy Everyday Heroes, Horde Wars, or Horde Wars Advanced? And is it called Basic, or is it just Horde Wars for the first one?
Horde Wars Basic, and then Horde Wars Advanced.
Okay, it does have the Basic on there. Okay, so Horde Wars Basic, Horde Wars Advanced, or Atomic Punk 2240, or Cow Punchers, or Makahito, Macaroni, whatever the hell that damn game's called. From the Basic Expert over there. I got to stop doing that. People get angry when I do that to them. All right. It's pronounced Makahito, Max. I know, but I'm not Aztec, so it looks like macaroni. All right. Dan Blackwell, we're going to start with you.
Sure.
But before, actually, no, we're not. We're going to go backward for just a second. We're going to start with the Basic Expert, because before we move into our final segment here, let's have our panel reintroduce themselves, share what other content they create other than maybe just this one game they're talking about, and where you can find them online. And with that, we're going to start with Basic Expert.
Sure, yeah. So again, I have a YouTube channel. I make videos, kind of expanding my channel a little bit too, talk about like art and stuff, because obviously I do art for other people, for other games. I worked on like on The Expanse and Call of Cthulhu stuff, Traveler, whatnot. So trying to do more art stuff, because obviously I love doing art. So art content, TTRPG content on my channel. You can find my stuff on DriveThruRPG. Other books that I have, other games I have is I have again Makuhito, Aztec role playing. If you want to get these, they're on my website for these nice hardcovers that I kickstarted.
You ever want to sacrifice people, but were disappointed that you couldn't do it in real life? There's your chance.
Yeah. I also have a cowboy game, which is like a D6 dice pool game, Cow Punchers, and I have a 0E plus chainmail clone called White Box that you can pick up as well. The PDF is free on DriveThruRPG. It's pay what you want. So my goal with that was to try and make. I kind of succeeded at it. I think it's still mysterious, but to try and make 0E plus chainmail less mysterious while using the D20 alternative combat system. But the chainmail isms added into there. So
nice. Yeah. Modern retro. I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Then we have Dave Scott, the evil genius of Evil Genius Games. Please remind folks who you are, what other content you create, and where they can find you online.
Yeah, my name is Dave Scott, guys. Hello, I'm with Evil Genius Games. We're just at www.evilgeniusgames.com. So we make the spiritual successor for D20 Modern, which is sort of, like I said, a foundational book. And then on top of that, we do something called Cinematic Adventures, where we make adventures based on like Kong Skull Island, Pacific Rim, and most recently, we're launching in May. We're doing a Kickstarter for Return of the Living Dead for the 40th anniversary of that film.
Brains.
Send more paramedics. And then what's kind of cool and what we're super excited about is we have this product called Sidekick, where if you pay like $5 a month, we drop new rules and new settings every single month. So we just did a post-apocalyptic setting. We just did a Ghostbuster style setting. We just did, and then coming forward, we're doing a Western setting. We're doing a Roaring '20s setting, which will drop on Tuesday of next week. So we're just coming up with, and these are all customer led. So they tell us what they want us to write, and we go write it. But we're really trying to showcase the flexibility of the system. And honestly, like, a lot of people are biased on 5e, or they don't like Evil Genius or whatever. But like, we never had anyone play the game and not have fun. So all we ask is try to play the game somewhere. You could buy it on our website, on drive-through, at any your friendly gaming store anywhere in the world. So it's certainly accessible.
One of the things that maybe when I was younger I didn't appreciate so much is the idea of one setting or one system fits all.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say that one system is perfect for literally every single type of setting out there, though some do a really good job. And just you get Everyday Heroes, and then all those, you could have an entire, how many how many shelves of my bookshelf would all your games take up?
Just about half a segment right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
so I mean, it's still a bunch of books. That's
and the ability to mix and match it is fun. Like I talked about, someone did a Highlander crushed with the Crow and made that a game. Some people have put our game into a D&D setting, like Curse of Strahd. And so it's super mixy and mashy, which is super cool.
Nice. Well, I got a $50 super chat.
Yeah.
From Daryl Errett. I hope I said that. Errett. Basic expert, doing your own artwork for your game. What percentage of time do you spend art versus writing? Before you answer that, I have my alcohol ready. I poured it a moment ago. Thank you very much, Daryl. Really appreciate that. Your super chat is awesome. I think we're coming up close. Nope, because of another super chat after yours, we actually will have the giveaway today. So awesome. Thank you very much. And this is to you, Daryl. So, TB, how much time do you spend on art versus writing?
It depends on the project. So for Atomic Punk, I did full color illustration on the inside, like painterly.
Can we see some of it? Oh, that's so rad, dude.
So some monsters there.
I love it. And you did all that art yourself?
Yeah. I did art. I've done art for TTRPGs for probably like 10 years freelance. And I probably within the last 5 years is when I started doing my own games, sort of like making my own opportunities. There's some more art there.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
It's hard to when it's mirrored. I would say for this book, it was like more time spent doing the art than it was writing the game. I had the brilliant idea of like, I'm going to illustrate every piece of armor and I'm going to illustrate every weapon. And that will look really cool. And it did, but it was so monotonous and mind numbing. And I had some PTSD because there was a while back when Mongoose Publishing hired me to do some stuff for one of their supplements. I think it was the Central Supply catalog. I was an artist on that one, and they just gave me like a bunch, and there's some stuff after. They just gave me a bunch. It was like 40 something, like just objects to illustrate for in the supply catalog, just pieces of gear. And oh my gosh, you don't want to like, gouge your eyes out and just give up and quit. That when you're illustrating like multiple pages of just objects. But yeah, I would say normally it's probably like 50-50, sometimes a bit less if it depends on the art style. In Makuhito, which is all like black and white interior, so I can find some art in here. Like a lot of the illustrations were trying to ape like Aztec style art. So this was like really easy for me to do. So it just depends.
All right. Another quick super chat here, $20 one. Thank you very much, Law Dog. No question, just supporting the stream. Also in the show description, the links for the panel member is what?
He's quite correct.
No, it should have been in there.
Oh no.
Hold on. Okay, I have them here. This is my template. All right. Well, you know what? I'll put them in there. Oh my God, it is blank. How? All right. Well, guess what? This is why I have a template. Apparently, because I don't know how to use it. Worst stream ever. I told you guys. There we go. The links are in there now. So go ahead and check it out. Refresh. Thank you, Law Dog, for letting me know. There's no pro streamer here. Stop it. You've been watching too long for that nonsense. There's no pro streamer. All right. So let's see. Did Formelius, maybe it's supposed to be, and I missed the explanation. No. Apparently, I don't know. I copy and paste my template over for whatever reason it wasn't there. So it's there now. So doubly sure go check that out and check out all those links in the description. We have Atomic Punk, Everyday Heroes, and Horde Wars in there. Now, Blackwall.
Yeah.
I did you dirty earlier. You know why I did you dirty? Because you get a twofer. Because I went backward for a reason on this one. Because not only do you get to tell, am I drunk? Not only do you get to tell people who you are and what are the products you make and where they can find you on the internet, you can also answer the question. Look at that. See, that's why Dolly Pop. That's why that happened. I just got to scroll down to the dumb question. So go ahead, tell us who you are while I scroll down to the question.
Sure. I'm Todd, or DM Blackwall online. I make and sell RPGs. Currently, I've got Horde Wars Basic and Horde Wars Advanced out. I also consult on RPGs. One I consulted on with Greg Lambert is Titans of Fallen Earth. I believe that will be out quite soon. I think there's a bit of a shipping delay, but otherwise that should be out quite soon. And that's a pretty cool, like, kaiju versus mecha game. And so that was really fun to be able to help with. And then I'm currently working on a sci-fi game with my business partner. We plan to have that ready for publication in March of next year. So it'll probably be a couple months after that, just to make sure we get good proofs back and stuff. Yeah, and you can find me at DM_Blackwall on Twitter or X. You can also find us at blackwallgames.com. You can order our digital products also through DriveThruRPG, though I discourage you from doing that. DriveThruRPG tends to take a pretty high cut, so it's much better for us if you buy it through our website. And right now, all of our physical products are $10 off. Digital's also on sale. So if you're on the fence, like right now, today, you should, if you're thinking about buying our books, buy it in the next day or two. It's better for you. You will pay less money than if you decide next week you want to pick it up. That being said, I actually, this is one of John's pieces of artwork. Let me see if I can get that. He did this cover.
Are you going into talking about your game right now?
I am.
Sorry, I have to interrupt this. It's a requirement. Sure. It's a $20 super chat. So.
Oh, absolutely.
I just wanted to let you finish what you're saying a moment ago. Mondohan, thank you for the $19.99. He says, another great stream and fantastic panel. Yes, it is. These guys have been good sports. They've talked about their game very well. I'm appreciative of all three of them being on here. I've never met Dave before now, and I hope to meet him again. I actually think this has been a great time. So I absolutely agree. This has been an awesome panel. Horrible host, but awesome panel. This year's panels have been exceptional. There's one that I think was a bump in the road, but with that, yeah, I think this year has been absolutely fantastic for Game Master Insight, and I'm happy for everybody who's been on here. And now, finally, Blackwall gets to answer his dumb question: Why do you believe your game is a worthwhile experience for players? And go ahead and you can talk about basic expert art here in just a second. And how would you encourage someone on the fence to just give it a chance?
Oh, really simple. You buy. Our game is one of the quickest to play that is tactically complex in the fantasy genre. If you compare us to D&D or Pathfinder, you can build a character in our game in 10 minutes very easily, and yet you have really tactically interesting things you can do in combat We have a full bestiary. We've got a full setting. Basically, you get an entire game in one book, and you don't have to pay us any money after that. You've got the book. You can play it for the next 20 years if you want to. If you do like the game, well, then buy some of our sequel products. We are working on new games in other genres, sci-fi being the next one, and then we've got a superhero one we're working on after that. And it's you should. I'll put it this way: when we demo this at conventions, the D&D and Pathfinder players come over to see what we are doing because our turn order is moving so fast, and they can tell it's the same kind of game. And a lot of this has to just do with design. My co-author is a physicist, also has a doctorate. Actually, he's got 2 doctorates. One's physics, one's math. And basically, we did some real, on the number crunching end, some real work to make this game flow smoothly.
So how did it not turn into Alexander McCreese's Ascendant game?
Well, that would be because we both. I'll put it this way: we built a game that we like playing. Alexander McCreese, if you listen to him talking with me, he admitted he doesn't use his own complex economic system. He doesn't do that. He put it in there because other people wanted it. So
that's fair. It's fair.
Like, so like that's that. We built a game the way that we like to play. But yeah, you also, of course, are going to get a bunch of cool artwork. We paid for Horde Wars Basic. We paid the Basic Expert, and we paid Simeon Cochran to do the artwork for that. Horde Wars Advanced, we have 7 artists. And so John's is on the cover, but I mean, this is just a tattoo artist that I know.
Oh, wow.
Did this piece. We've got over 100 pieces of artwork in there, a couple hundred monsters for you to fight, over 100 pieces of treasure for you to magic items for you to roll up that are unique, and the magic weapon table can generate thousands of them of unique magic weapons. And basically, yeah, we give you everything you need at a very low price. We're either equal to or less than one book from WotC or Paizo, and we're giving you roughly triple the content in real measurable ways. And you're going to have a more exciting, quicker game experience, and you're going to be risking character death. So if you buy our game, be willing to experience loss. Victor has checked. He helped playtest.
Can you give an example of a feedback from, say, a skeptic who tried?
We have very few who actually try. Like, the hard part is getting people to play the game. Once someone tries our game, we have something like a 70% purchase rate.
Oh, wow.
That's great.
Yeah. It's just the hard part, like David mentioned earlier, is just getting people to try it.
But so when you do get them to try it, well, like what is the open feedback, say, from a typical skeptic of why this person now enjoys the game? We'll say not the company line, but the actual players out there. Like, dude, I thought this game was going to suck, or I didn't care, or whatever it happened to be, but I'm stoked, and here's why.
Yeah, they are generally stoked that they get to fight so many monsters, as the game implies. With Horde Wars, large amounts of opponents, you're fighting 40, 50 opponents sometimes in a single fight, and it only takes hour or so. As if you compare that to a lot of those other games, you'll still be slogging away in that fight 3 or 4 hours in. You know
where I heard the most about your game?
What's that?
You know where I heard the most about your game?
What did you hear?
Biggest Geekus. They were the one. Yeah. They were Randy and Joe from Biggest Geekus. That's where I heard the most about your game.
Yeah, I'm going to go play with them in about a month. Actually, we've got a weekend scheduled with about 20 guys who are all leaving wives and kids behind for the weekend and gaming for like 3 days straight.
Sounds fun.
Jealous.
Cool. All right. Well, hopefully that convinced folks out there, if already the first 3 segments didn't do it, to go check out Horde Wars. I don't know why you haven't yet. Dave, Basic Expert, any final questions, comments, and concerns for DM Blackwell about his game?
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, no.
Cool.
Okay.
I hope you
That's
try it
fine.
out.
Well, let's go on over to our brand new guest for today. We have Dave Scott, and he's going to talk about everything, apparently, why we should be checking out Everyday Heroes. I don't want Everyday Heroes. I want the Today Hero, dang it. Me. Now, why do you believe your game is a worthwhile experience for players? And how would you encourage someone on the fence to just give it a chance?
Yeah, listen, very similar to DM Blackwell. When people play it, they can't not have fun. And we've had a lot of really great convention experiences. But we have an organized play program. We have over 110 retail stores that are signed up. You could probably walk in to your local store and play a game for free. We have an app called orgplay.app, which allows you to sign up. We also have people that are running it on Roll20. They're running it on Foundry. So if you want to play, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to play. And plus also all the exciting conventions. I ran 4 days worth of events at GaryCon. So I've been there. But yeah, so certainly there's an opportunity to play, and just like what DM Blackwell said, like play it, then make the decision. I think you're going to enjoy it. You're going to pick up both our games for very different reasons and love them. So that's my plug. Play it.
So in what ways do you think your game stands out from, say, the more established, just traditional D20 modern titles, and what benefits does Everyday Heroes bring?
Yeah, so as I was mentioning earlier, there's not a lot of modern games that are out there, right? I mean, so maybe Call of Cthulhu, but it's very specific to that genre of horror. There's a great game called Delta Green.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of the occultish stuff, like Call of Cthulhu, but more on a military style. But there's nothing that sort of brings that beauty of big action, modern day experience and feel. Savage Worlds, yeah, maybe. And so we think we're sort of in a league of our own. But you've got to really be open to that genre, like Max, we've been trying to get you to be. So I think that's the key thing that stands out, is that, and then also the familiarity, which is you can bring your spouse, you can bring your grandmother, you can bring your son, you can hop in as long as you know D&D or the basic tenets, you can just start playing. And I think that's an advantage as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. And then Basic Expert. Now, just to be clear, you don't have a 2241 game. It's only 2240, right? The original is 2140, if I remember correctly.
2160. So it's a play on it's always a year before Fallout 1 and 2, essentially.
Okay.
Games take place. So that's where the name of the game comes from.
Okay. Well, why do you believe your game is a worthwhile experience for players, and how would you encourage someone on the fence to give it a chance?
I would say I'm gonna be blunt. I'm not very good at shilling or marketing my own things, so I'm gonna say my games are always designed with like an old school mindset, with a sort of attempt at modern presentation as best as I possibly can. So this game is going to be for you if you're interested in a deadly game that's maybe not fantasy. Like right now, like partly while I'm running a classic traveler game for my buddies is I'm kind of like fantasied out a little bit. You know, you're kind of playing Dungeons and Dragons. You're playing medieval fantasy for so long, and you're sort of like, I just need something different. I need to kill things and take their stuff in a different setting. And so I would say like that this is definitely like a unique take on it. It's definitely different from like the Modifius game. And I have a lot of people that have purchased it. They really like it. They like the depth that I go into it. And one guy, for instance, Moon and James on Twitter, on X, he was like running a Ringworld game on
wow.
with my rules. So he's the one that actually requested the Psyker, the Psionic class. He's like, I want to run a Ringworld game, but like
I was going to ask you a question about it, wrote it down and completely forgot. Oh well, too late now.
So, you know, it's not just conducive to that. If you want to, you could run a lot of different genres with it as well, and not just you can do your own spin on it. I think the 2D10 mechanic is unique. I think melding the design philosophies of both BX and Traveler together is something that like I've wanted to do for a while, and so I finally did it, and I have it presented in a way that I'm fairly proud of, as like a one-man show. I feel like I've made something. I will toot my own horn a little bit. I feel like I've made something that looks doesn't if you didn't know that one guy made it, I don't know if you'd know that, you know. So maybe you would once you started reading it, Max, but yeah, I think it's just it's a unique take on the game, and you know, I had fun making it. I make games for me, and hopefully at least the passion that I have comes out in what I do.
If it makes you feel better, we tore into the 7th printing of Castles and Crusades because we could tell 2 different people wrote it. Like, it was very obvious that at least 2 people wrote different sections of the book, because you'd read it be in one language format and then also be like, what just happened here? So, you know what? If it looks like just one person wrote your book because one person wrote it, that gets a thumbs up from me. There's no singular days. Anyway, so is sorry, I wanted to ask you, where is it? This one, yeah. What do you consider the best way for a new group or a new player to approach an initial session of your game?
I have a zine issue. Let me find it real quick, where I kind of give you a basic starting adventure. I gotta find it. It's my zine issue number 9 on my website, thebasicexpert.com. You can get it as a PDF. It's like $3.
You can put that link into, I don't want to, have like 9,000 links from everybody, but if you want to go ahead and put that one in private chat, I'll add it in there.
All right. That zine issue is all about Atomic Punk, where I give you like the Raider generator, the Raider clan generator, an adventure, so the Psyker class, and a few other little things that kind of expand the game a little bit. So I would say the best way to do it, though, is like just roll up some characters. You're not going to die in character creation like Traveler. That's one thing I didn't put in. But roll up some characters and just do like I call it a bunker delve instead of a dungeon delve. Just like set up a little settlement and just put a little bunker outside of town and let the players go and explore it. You know, kind of like, again, I have a very old school mindset. I'm satisfied by very simple things. So I'm a simple man. Yeah, just a simple go in, look for some loot, and then, build your campaign off of that. I think it's always one of the best ways to start sort of exploration games, which my game is kind of very much like an exploration. I expect like exploration to be occurring in the game. So,
I mean, you based it on Fallout, that kind of makes sense. But honestly, a lot of what you said, I have not read Atomic Punk 2240 yet. But a lot of what you said in there, let's see, you talked about the Matrix. Yep, I'm into that. It's post-apocalyptic. Well, anybody who's known me for anything, all of my games are post-apocalyptic. After the Bomb, well, that's pretty glaring, right? Mutant Year Zero. Forbidden Lands is actually post-apocalyptic. Earth Dawn is technically a post-apocalyptic fantasy game. Like, I love that genre because it allows me to use my imagination more and less like, no, that's not actually there. Well, guess what? You have lava flows here, jerk, because the world changed. So I like doing that, but it's still a known enough world where you can get some history, where you can kind of have an idea of like where your factions and so forth are. I really like that. In a science fiction setting, Mutant Crawl Classics is a game I've always wanted to give a try as well, and haven't had a chance to do that. So, maybe this will scratch that itch. So, I think all 3 of these games, man, I tell you what, I've never had somebody sell me on both the words D20 and modern together at one time. So I don't know what you did there. You put something in my alcohol because, I'm liking that one. And Blackwell, that I've been looking forward to aspects of that of Horde Wars. That's probably the game I have the least chance of actually getting a group to play. Unless I go find the group as the player, but I want to be the game master. Dang it! But real quickly, and I think each one of you should do this. I'm gonna quickly go through one more time. Basically, we'll start with TB since we're on you right now. Do you have a community, Discord, Guilded, Facebook group, whatever, where people can learn either more about the game or meet up and play?
Yeah, we don't have any current Atomic Punk games going on my Guilded server, but if you want to come out and like onto my server and ask me questions about the game, more than happy to. Or you can find me on X as well if you want to tweet at me. I'm a villain and I'm mean, but I can be chill too. So,
So you remember when I used to make all those troll tweets?
Yeah.
I've started doing it on YouTube because I'm just kind of focusing everything on YouTube. Man, I tell you what, people get angry over obvious jokes.
Yeah, we don't have a sense of humor anymore.
Right.
I make jokes all the time, and it's just like, man, I'm just kidding. Like, lighten up.
It's not funny then. All right, Dave, do you have a community, a place where people can meet up and learn how to play or find people to play Everyday Heroes and or any other version of that? Rambo, I want to play Rambo.
Yes, I want to wear Rambo fighting a kaiju in a Jaeger. Now, yes, we have a Discord channel that I've just linked to the private chat.
Okay.
If you share it, that'd be awesome. It's very vibrant. There's a lot of conversation going on there, and there are whole communities there. So if you want to find a game there, absolutely.
You know, I don't normally like to put 1,000 links in here, but I think you guys actually, to get people in here, TBE, if you want to also put your Gilded link in here,
Sure.
I'll fine. Today is going to be link day, and I'm going to have all the panelists information. But let's be honest. We're trying to promote their games, but we also want to kind of promote their communities as well. So to encourage you to play the games or learn more about the games. So while I normally don't do this, I think today is a good reason to do this. Bear with me just one moment as I add this one in here. What do you call that Discord server? Egg Discord. Okay.
Yeah, it's just the Evil Genius Games Discord server. And also we have a quick start guide, which is free. You can download on our website. If you want to play with your friends, it is free to play.
All right, and Blackwell, you as well. If you've got a community or your Discord server, I know you've talked about that a bunch of times. If you want to throw that in there as well,
I have a Gilded server, but you don't have to put up the link. Don't worry. For the people who buy our game, you through our website, you get sent a link. If you buy it through Drive-Thru-RPG, you just contact us with your order number and we can send you one. But the people who have bought the game during this stream have already gotten the invite. So
what if somebody's on the fence and like, I don't know, I'd like to find out more and talk, learn more about these people?
Hit me up. We do have a public section of it, so I can get you that link if you'd like. But if you don't want to be worrying about it, it's not a huge problem. Let me quick grab that link for you.
Okay. Yeah. Just be easier, folks. Did I add you in here, TB? Good.
Now, I should note that Gilded links do expire. So if you catch this in the next, week or so, it should be live. And after that, you will want to get a hold of us.
Oh, they don't have permanent ones like Discord?
They should have permanent ones.
I don't put out permanent ones because remember that bot invasion problem you had?
Yeah, you just got to manage your.
That's
your
fair.
links.
Yeah. Just helps prevent that.
That's why you have to fill out an application to get on my server. It keeps the bots out. Yeah. We'll let you in, but it keeps like bot spammers out. So.
Yeah, but his application's hard. It's like, what's 2 + 2? And if you answer 4, he says, wrong! New math. All right. Well, any last words you guys want to say? We're right at end time or at the maximum end time now. I think we're good to go for tonight. But if there's anything that you think was left on the table that you got to quickly get out, I'll give you one last moment to say what you got to say. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap this up here. By the way, Dave, you haven't hung out with us before. If you want, I would like you to hang out just a little bit longer after the show, quote unquote, ends. It won't actually be over. I'll explain all this in a moment. But if you've got to go, just give me a moment after the stream ends for me to thank you and so forth. If you got a moment.
Oh yeah. So I just want to make one quick shout out. When I said that, I didn't think there was a lot of modern day games out there. A couple people in the chat ran through a bunch that I was not aware of.
We have all the well actuallys in this chat. Just know that.
Yeah. So no disrespect to any modern day games that are out there. I'm sure they're all amazing.
That's one of the things that I've come to grips with. No matter what I say, somebody's going to actually it somewhere, even if it doesn't matter. So,
no, it's great.
Okay, so just want to remind folks that the stream does not end. I play the theme song for me to make the video later. The stream will continue on after the ending credits or whatever you want to call it happens. TBE. I know this is kind of pushing your time limit here. If you want to hang out, please do. Obviously, Dave, and all of you. I mean, normally people hang out for a little bit. You don't have to, though. Once the show's over, it's over. So I just can't talk today. I don't know what is going on. I should just give up. Where's my... Here we go. All right. Well, and I just screwed up my entire screen. I hate my life right now. You know, it's great for a stream to have something blank on there that nobody understands what's going on. And holy Lord. Okay. All right. Where are we here? So this Sunday on RPG Digest, I'm going to be running the second to last week of Rule Cyclopedia. Yes, that book is almost over. And Heathen Dog is going to cover Wretched New Flesh Second Edition. Apparently, it's a really big book, part of the Wretched series. I haven't followed the Wretched series since I first looked at it a long time ago, but apparently this is new. It's huge. It's like 600 million pages or something, and Heathen Dog's finally going to do an overview of it. So look forward to that if you want some sort of zombie niche, dark, gross game. There you go. And those are selling points. Next week on Game Master Insight, we'll be talking about tabletop RPGs as a niche hobby or mainstream business. That's going to be a tough one for me to be balanced on because I'm definitely on the niche hobby side. I think that making it mainstream and popularizing it actually killed it as a hobby. But that's, we'll talk about that next week. And we're going to have Mr. Max Boivin, Hunter, also known as the Ultra TTRPG America, something like that. I just know him as Hunter, and Dolly Pop back on for the first time in a long time to one of the streams. She'll be popping up, and I think she's on the mainstream side. So once again, Dolly Pop and I will be arguing because that's what we do. Now with that, I know there's a super chat I've got to read. So let me get to that real quickly here. And boop, here it is. Patty's Parlor says, I'd like to shill my poo. I don't care. You can say shit. Check your Discord DMs. I did. I posted out there and show these guys some sweet apparel they can pick up. I actually said that I wish I had thought about that one. That was such not easy. Easy is not the right word. That was such a simple concept to come up with. It's so awesome. I hope people do buy the shirt. I did put the link in the chat. I'll do it again a little bit here. But that was a good one, Patty. And I'm actually angry I didn't think of that. So good on you. Good stuff. And I hope people buy that shirt or the stickers. Apparently he's got stickers of it as well. So if you're like, what are you talking about? I'll post a link again once we head out of the show here. Let me get the thank you screen back up here. I got some people already waiting to pop on in for segment 5, which is cool. And all right, well, I want to thank the panel tonight sincerely. First of all, they put up with the idea that they were shilling their product next to 2 other people who were shilling their product. So it wasn't just all about them. And they handled it with grace. They handled it with tact. Blackwall, I'm going to say is normally I save stuff like this for behind the scenes, but I really appreciated you engaging right off the bat, just engaging the other creators in segment 1, asking them questions. That's what we want to see more of on all of these shows. So thank you for that. I thought that was awesome. All 3 panelists were amazing. I came in, very positive attitudes, talked about their game. I'm sold on every one of these games now, and I mean that with all sincerity. I'm not saying that as a shill. I don't have to like any of these guys. So I hope you guys thank Blackwall Games for Horde Wars, thank Dave Scott for Everyday Heroes, and thank the Basic Expert for Atomic Punk 2240. I hope you found their games both entertaining and something you want to put in your collection. As always, if you enjoy this discussion, please like this video, subscribe to Legion of Myth and to all the panelists, and go buy their stuff where you can find in the description. Normally right now I'd have final comments, so I probably should have put up the final comments screen, but you know what? I don't have any final comments. Those were my final. They was about their games. Their games are awesome. Check them out. Please, please, please look at links in the description and join their communities as well. Find out more about them. And that's really all I've got for tonight. So thank you all for watching. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for all the commentary that was going on here. Obviously, it was hopping today. Love it. And I hope to see each and every one of you next week.